Today, I caught my boyfriend sleeping in his bed with his female friend, who I know for a fact has feelings for him and has also been intimate with him in the past. But when I confronted him about it, he tries to justify it as much as possible, saying that they were just talking and that they fell asleep and that there's absolutely nothing between them. But right now, I don't know what to believe, and I'm very pissed off about this. And at this point, I'm seriously not sure what to do. Here's what's happening. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Okay, for a bit of context, because I think that's going to be super important in this situation. My boyfriend and this girl have sort of a complex history, including being intimate with each other, if you know what I mean. And he actually told me earlier in our talking stages that they were not close anymore. Mind you, I don't like that girl, and I think it's a shared feeling here. Well, yesterday, during some chatting, he told me that she was going to come over to keep him company since he hasn't been feeling well, and as a friend, she cares for him. He said to me, "Oh, she asked about my mom and how she was doing and wanted to come over to keep me company." And let me tell you something, this makes me quite uncomfortable, especially since I only found out because I asked about it, and not because he thought that it could be nice to let me know in advance for transparency. After my night shift, I took an Uber to his place to spend the night, you know, like I did the night before, and I got there pretty late, so I expected the hangout to be over already, knowing that he's usually already sleeping at this time. Well, tell me why I see her shoes in the entryway when I open the door, and imagine my shock when I find them sleeping in his bed. I woke him up immediately and I asked him what in the world was going on, and he said to me, "Oh, sorry, we just fell asleep. I didn't know you'd be coming back here so soon." And oh my god, I was so enraged in the moment, and I didn't want to break down, so I just immediately took everything I had there and I left his keys and I left the house. I was then waiting for my Uber in the lobby, shaking like a leaf, expecting that maybe he would come out of the elevator to try and explain what I saw. But no, my guy just went right back to bed. This morning, he then sent me a text message saying, "Hey, to address this morning, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect you to come back to my place. We were just talking and fell asleep. I'm really sorry about that, and especially the way you left. Let me know when I could call you so we could talk about it." And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is a huge red flag to me. I feel humiliated and completely disrespected. Like, I don't even know where to go from here. He also called to talk and couldn't stop mentioning how, "Oh, she's just a friend now. I'm sorry that my friend cares about me. We just got carried away and fell asleep." Essentially just trying to convince me that, oh, it's not that deep. Oh, and I did ask him how in the world did the two of you end up in bed together? But again, he just said, "Oh, we were just yapping in bed and fell asleep." And I'm like still trying to process that because wow, what in the world is going on? Also, as a side note, she is in a relationship. Plus, I know that she likes him. Not just as a friend, mind you, and I can't prove that, of course, but it's just this gut feeling that I've got in my stomach. Ever since the first time I saw that girl, I just knew she would be jealous of what was going on between us. And I say this not to blame her, but to explain why I won't even trust her to be platonic with him. So seriously, what should I do in this situation? Because I am completely lost and I'm very pissed off. Okay, I gotta be honest with you, and I want you to really sit down for this one and I don't know, grab a coffee, get your favorite safety blanket, plushie, whatever it takes, but sit down for this one because I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Okay, you ready for this? All right, you need to dump this guy. Bro, I would never stay with my girlfriend if I found her sleeping in the same bed as a guy that she used to I don't know, do the dirty deed with. Are you kidding me? There are so many different ways he could find comfort and find the support that he needs, instead of going with a girl that obviously wants to jump his skin at the earliest opportunity. Like, holy crap, was he not setting up the perfect scenario for something to happen? Oh, we might make a mistake. Let's just lie in bed together and fall asleep next to each other. Like, what a moron. Holy crap. This guy clearly has secret feelings for this girl, and obviously it's not just a friend. Because, dude, I've got plenty of friends who are girls as well. But let me tell you something. First off, if she's coming over, my girlfriend's gonna be there too because I'm loyal in my relationships, unlike this guy in the story. But also, I'm not gonna be alone with this lady, let alone alone on my bed where we both can fall asleep. This guy set the stage for him to start cheating on you, and then nothing happened. Oh, we were just talking. The thing I was hoping would happen didn't happen, so it's not that big of a deal. Like, holy crap, screw this guy, dude. I'm not kidding. I would dump him so fast if I was in your shoes. Because his behavior is completely unacceptable. There's no justifying it, no matter how hard he tries to act like, oh, nothing was gonna happen. We're just friends. Like, that's a load of crap, and I think you can do way better than this guy. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Would you be forgiving of your boyfriend if you caught him sleeping in the same bed as a supposed female friend? Or would you join me in kicking him to the curb and not looking back? Seriously, leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. I mean, what are you doing? If you haven't subscribed, then you're missing out, man. It's the best community on the internet, if I could be so biased myself. We're diving into all kinds of scenarios and situations, like, good lord, trust me when I say this. There are so many weird situations that go on in people's lives, and we get to sit in the movie theater and watch it all take place and kind of discuss it afterwards, man. Which in a way is like cathartic and it's fun, and it's like, okay, I kind of see where things went wrong and now I can learn from that. So please subscribe and hit the bell to turn on notifications and don't miss out. Speaking of community, I really am glad that a lot of you guys enjoyed that video where it's like, oh, the fiance wants me to get rid of the cat. Because dude, the overwhelming consensus is that, yeah, I would rather get rid of the fiance. And this user in particular said that they agree with me. They also grew up around pets, and it's like, dude, I cannot imagine getting rid of a family member just to make this person happy. Like, holy crap. So big shout out to Daima. They pretty much understand where I'm coming from, and it seems like everybody in the comment section of that absolutely understands as well. Now, if you want to submit your own stories, then please go to AmITheJerk.com/submit. I would love to hear what you have to say because you guys have some crazy scenarios and crazy circumstances you find yourself in, and bringing that in front of the audience and giving it a voice would be a fantastic thing to do. So please submit some stories and show us what's going on in your life, man. But without further delay, let's get back to the video and on to the next story. Today, I had one of the most entitled clients of my career over one simple boundary that she refused to make sense of. And honestly, it felt really good blocking her number, especially after she started criticizing me for not doing exactly as she said, which honestly was really ridiculous and completely over the line. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, after some back-to-back really long days, I finally had to enforce a boundary with a client. And I genuinely just don't know why some people think massage therapists aren't allowed to be human. But this happened yesterday and is honestly kind of blowing my mind. Now, I've had one of those weeks where every day has been completely packed. We're talking multiple long sessions, tons of driving between appointments, and by the end of the day, my hands and bodies were definitely feeling it. Don't get me wrong, I love what I do, but I've learned the hard way that if I don't protect my schedule, I end up just burning myself out. Well, because of that, I have a pretty simple policy. I don't take last-minute add-ons once I've already committed to a client session, and if someone books 90 minutes, they get my full attention for those 90 minutes, but I don't extend it on the spot anymore. So I finished a client's massage and everything seemed completely normal. She thanked me and told me that she felt amazing, and it's here, like normal, this is where I start packing up my table. But at this moment, that's when she suddenly asked if I could stay for another hour. Well, I apologized and I told her I can't do that because I've already worked a long day and I needed to head home. And I explained that I would be happy to get her scheduled for another appointment if she would like, but when I said that, her entire attitude completely changed. She rolled her eyes and said, seriously? Someone your size shouldn't need breaks. And I honestly thought that I misheard her. I said to her, excuse me? But she literally doubled down. She said, oh, you're young, you're a big guy. I don't understand why you're acting tired. If you actually cared about your clients, you would stick around. And I really just stood there for a second, trying to process what exactly she had actually said to me. I told her, I'm sorry, but my schedule for today is over. I need to take care of myself too. Well, being irritated, she grabbed her phone and said, wow, I'll definitely be telling people how unprofessional this is. Well, at this point, I just wished her a good evening. I loaded my equipment into my car and I left. And honestly, I figured that would be the end of it, but of course it wasn't. Because about 20 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. First, it was messages about how lazy I was. Then she told me that I must not really need the money. Then she told me, oh, I hope you learn how to treat paying clients. But you know what? Despite all the messages that she sent my way, I didn't respond to a single one. I simply blocked her number and I moved on with my evening. A few years ago, I probably would have felt guilty and questioned whether I should have stayed. But now, no, absolutely not. Not even a little bit. I've realized that protecting your own energy doesn't make you a bad massage therapist. Instead, it makes you someone who actually wants to have a career that's still around 5 years from now. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Holy crap, dude. Imagine having a therapist that you enjoy going to, who helps your body feel better and maybe recovers from I don't know, sports or whatever's going on. And then this is the way you treat them. You act like, oh, I'm sorry, but you need to stay longer. You clearly don't care about money, but it's like, dude, I'm tired. I don't care about money at this point. I need to protect I don't know, my sanity. Because at the end of the day, dude, work is still work. Even if you love your job, you could love everything about your job and be like, dude, I am having the time of my life. Every single day amazing adventure. I'm living the dream. This is the best thing ever in my life. Even then, in that situation, you will still find reasons to be like, man, sometimes this job blows. There are certain specific aspects of it that I'm like, I really just don't want to do this right now. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that a massage therapist who's standing and massaging people's bodies all day, they probably would have sore hands and probably tired backs by the end of it. Like, I would imagine after 8 hours of doing that every single day, you would probably be exhausted and be like, okay, I don't want to touch anybody. Please, I don't want to be here any longer. So for this lady to literally be like, oh, someone your size doesn't deserve a break. You need to stick around and be my slave. Stay here and massage me more. First off, that sounds like a horrifying, like, I don't know, Black Mirror episode. Like, I don't know what's going on right now, but that's not how the world works. You can't just be like, stay here longer if you care about your clients. Because any reasonable person would be like, well, I'm leaving because you don't care about me as a professional. I'm not your indentured servant, lady. I can go live my life and do whatever I want. So good for the original poster. Sometimes you have to stand on business. You gotta stand up for yourself and tell people, screw you, you're not gonna talk to me like that. And this story is a fantastic example of that, and I absolutely love it. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my 18-year-old brother? Especially after my family effectively kicked me out when we moved, as they moved into a 2-bedroom house which didn't allow me to still live with them. Here's basically what's going on. I'm 26 years old, and until recently, I was living at home with my mom, my stepdad, and my 18-year-old stepbrother, who is basically my stepdad's son. Now, for as long as I can remember, it's always felt like my stepbrother has been the clear favorite in the family, and I've tried to ignore it over the years, but recent events have really brought these feelings back to the surface. My family rent, and our landlord recently told us that she needs the property back because her son is moving in. So basically, we had to find somewhere else to live. There were multiple 3-bedroom properties within the same budget, but my mom and stepdad decided to rent a 2-bedroom house instead. And yeah, that decision meant that there was no room for me. So I was effectively told I need to find somewhere else to live. Well, as a result of that, my girlfriend and I are now having to bring forward our plans to buy a house by about a year. We'll make it work, I mean, sure, but it's added a lot of financial pressure and stress that we were not expecting yet. Now, here's the part that really annoyed me. My mom and stepdad are going on holiday for a week, and they've actually asked me to move back into their new house for that week just to stay with my 18-year-old stepbrother, because according to them, oh, we just don't want him to get lonely. But it's like, dude, he's 18 years old. He's legally an adult. And after choosing a house that had no room for me, they now expect me to come back and play house sitter and keep him company. Now, part of me feels guilty because it is only a week, but another part of me feels like I'm only being included when it's convenient for them. When it came to choosing a house, I wasn't important enough to have a bedroom, but now they need something from me, and suddenly I'm expected to help out. So am I overreacting for not wanting to do it? Would you actually go back after feeling like you've been pushed out, or is it reasonable for me to say no? Because right now I really just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I would not help these people out at all. Are you kidding me right now? Because you know what? Yeah, they really did kick you out in a weird way. If they wanted you to move out, this should have been a conversation a long time ago. But instead, it seems like they use this as an excuse to be like, oh good, finally, we can kick them out. We can have them get out of our house finally and find a smaller place. And it's like, dude, what are we doing? This is not fair for me. Like, what's up with this? You can't just spring this on me suddenly and be like, oh, we're moving here, but you can't stay with us. Like, bro, at that point, I probably wouldn't help them with anything either. Like, that really sucks. And it's also so weird because holy crap, this is an 18-year-old guy. This is someone with a smartphone and with probably a gaming console of some kind, as well as friends and the internet. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? He's gonna be lonely. Because he is not gonna be lonely. He's gonna be completely content and happy with what he's doing. He's gonna be like, oh cool, my parents are gone. I can now do whatever I want. Like, I don't perceive this as a situation where it's like, oh, he's gonna be sad. This adult child that lives with us, yeah, he's gonna really need the company. Like, no, he's not. He's gonna be completely fine. I don't need to be there for a week. And guess what? If he really can't take care of himself for a week, then you did a crappy job as parents. But regardless, I would say screw that and be like, sorry, can't help you. I don't live there. Like, I would happily and absolutely tell these people no if I was in your shoes. Because at the end of the day, this is an 18-year-old man. He's not a child anymore, and any reasonable teenager, even at the age of like 15, should be able to take care of themselves. And in my opinion, I don't think the original poster should be expected to babysit their stepbrother, who can clearly take care of himself. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that I don't want to host her ever again? Especially after she turned me into her errand girl for the entire weekend she was spending time with me, which now as a result has caused a lot of problems and has put me in a really sticky situation. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female, and my friend asked if she could stay with me for a weekend because she wanted a break from work and said that she would love to catch up. For reference, we've been friends for years, so I happily said yes. So in preparation for this, I cleaned the apartment, I stocked the fridge with snacks snacks that I knew she would like, and I even planned a couple of activities around town. The first evening was fine, but Saturday morning I realized I had accidentally booked myself as the unpaid staff at an all-inclusive resort. My friend slept until almost noon while I made breakfast, and when she finally got up, she asked if I could make her coffee because she was still waking up. She left her dishes on the table, she dropped her clothing on the bathroom floor, and every time we got back from somewhere, she would collapse on the couch and ask if I could grab her water, because apparently I was already standing or moving about. I also suggested several times that we go for a walk or visit a local market. Maybe we can watch a movie or even play some board games. But every single suggestion got a shrug followed by her saying, "Whatever you want," or "Oh, if you say so." And then when we would do that, she would complain once we were there. And then, "Oh, I'm so bored, I'm tired." And honestly, I just guessed that, okay, maybe her social battery was low and she just needed to rest. Well, by Sunday, I had done all the cooking, all the cleaning, literally all the driving, and the only thing that she contributed was a growing pile of cups and blankets for me to pick up. And at first, sure, it's okay, but now it's becoming a normal thing for her. The breaking point came when I started washing the breakfast dishes before taking her to the airport, because my friend seriously looked at me and asked, "Oh my god, can you please hurry up? I don't want to be late." She didn't even offer to help despite standing there scrolling on her phone. I finally said to her, "Look, I love you, but hosting you has been exhausting. I feel like I've spent the weekend taking care of you instead of spending time with you." She then got defensive and said that, "Oh, guests are supposed to relax," and that apparently I was making her feel unwelcome over a few chores. She then said to me, "Oh, you know how I am. I'm just trying to conserve my energy for the next thing we're gonna do." Well, ever since then, she's been telling mutual friends that I was a terrible host and that I made her feel guilty for visiting. And some people think that I should have been quiet since we all know how lazy she is. But honestly, am I the jerk here for speaking up and speaking my mind? Because I honestly don't know what to do, and I'm not sure if I made a mistake here. What should I do? Oh my god, dude, if I'm washing dishes and I'm trying to clean up someone else's mess, and then they literally stand next to me doing nothing to help, by the way, and say to me, "Oh my god, hurry up, I don't want to be late," I would look at her and be like, "Oh, you better start walking, lady, because I'm not helping you with anything." Are you kidding me right now? Dude, if I'm staying over at somebody's house, the first thing I'm gonna do is say, "Dude, can I please wash the dishes for you? Hey, I'll absolutely run any errand that you want me to. I'll do anything that I need to do to help make sure the house is in good order and that everything's fine." I'm not about to start complaining and being like, "Oh my god, you didn't do enough for me." Like, holy crap, this person sounds lazy and obnoxious, and I would hate dealing with them. So no, this lady's an idiot and she's the jerk. She needed to hear exactly what you felt, because I think that really was the right thing to do. My parents are angry that I won't be home at all this summer, simply because my sister and her friends are so obnoxious. Because right now, this has seriously become a big problem for me, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, I'm a 19-year-old male, and I really don't like my sister's friends. They're all between the ages of 15 and 17 years old, and they're literally allowed to be so intrusive. Before I left for college, I knew that 2 or 3 weekends a month would involve big slumber parties with most of, or if not all of her friends. Even during the week, she'd have random slumber parties all the time. And summers, dude, they were the worst. They were allowed multiple overnights in a row once they were teenagers, and it was awful. Now, I know they're young and I have fun with my friends too, but these girls would come into my room without permission. They would steal my stuff to use, and they would dare each other to flirt with me or to try and kiss me. It was really awkward, and I wasn't allowed to lock my door, so my patience wore out years ago for that crap. My parents were even okay with them snooping in their room. If they had an issue, they could just lock the door, but since I was one of the kids, they didn't think I should be allowed to. And my sister is just as bad as her friends, and she would get in my face for hiding stuff so that they couldn't steal it. Our relationship was never that good anyways, but this kind of thing made it worse. My parents used to tell me to invite my friends over so I'd have my own company, and I did until they got so tired of the intrusiveness of my sister and her friends. We literally couldn't sleep comfortably or do anything without them butting in. Now, moving out for college was a huge relief, but Christmas was ruined with the same stuff, so I planned to be somewhere else this summer. My parents asked, and I just straight up told them a dozen times or more now, and they told me that I should be home and that I can visit for a week here or there, but I made it perfectly clear I'm not coming home to be swarmed by these girls again, and they told me that it would be just for a few days. We then argued a couple more times because they tried to order me home, but I just ignored them, and now they're pissed off, and my relationship with them is really crappy. I don't like that, but I also can't get them to agree agree to a compromise, like maybe my sisters can't have her friends spend the night while I'm home. They're just expecting me to come home and deal with it, but it's like my room already got repurposed for their slumber parties anyways. So seriously, I really would like to not lose my parents over this, but I'm not sure what I'm meant to do because this is really frustrating and I'm seriously at a loss. Okay, this is so weird because your parents are being completely stupid in my opinion. Like, are they really looking at you and saying, no, you can't lock your room, you're not allowed? Like, that is so dumb. I hate everything about that. I would be so annoyed by that. Because seriously, if you could just lock your door and tell them to get lost, or if your parents would be like, okay, you gotta stop doing that, that would make all of your problems go away. And it seems like they're only doing this because they know they can get away with it. They can make you feel uncomfortable and steal your crap and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go all through your room. And at that point, you have no rights in the house. Like, you're being held hostage by your sister and whatever she wants to do. And let me tell you something, dude, I would hate everything about that. That would be so obnoxious to deal with on a daily basis, dude. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would stand firm. I would tell them straight up, unless something changes with my sister and her friends, I am not coming back. Which, if your parents can't understand that, or if they're just being weird about it, then fine, they could be weird about it. But you should not be expected to be subjected to this kind of treatment all the time. That sounds obnoxious, incredibly annoying, and I would definitely not want to deal with that. An entitled Karen makes me feel bad for using food stamps, humiliating me in the grocery checkout line, as well as claiming that I'm the reason her card declined when I left. So I decided to get some revenge by telling this lady off in the parking lot and letting her know exactly how I feel, as well as how rude she actually was. And I've honestly never felt better about defending myself in the slightest. Here's what happened. So I was grocery shopping this morning as we were out of food at home, and I got my stuff that I came for and I was in line. Everything was fine until an entitled Karen showed up right behind me. She saw my cart full of groceries and she proceeded to give me a dirty look. So I knew it was going to take me a bit to unload my cart onto the lane. Anywho, I was in the process of checking out and I pulled out my food stamps card. I was mid-swipe when this Karen had the audacity to say to me, "You should be ashamed of yourself for using food stamps. My money goes towards people like you who leech off the government. You are all a bunch of lazy people. If you weren't lazy, maybe you wouldn't need assistance." And when she said that, I was blown away. I turned around and said, "You know what? You should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting that. You don't know my life. As for how to read the room, you completely failed in that area. How I live my life is none of your business." She proceeded to say a lot of other stuff and I just left. On my way out, I heard the cashier say that her card was declined and she needed another form of payment. I smiled and didn't feel bad at all. I was in the middle of loading my car up when this Karen yet again approached me, but this time she was loading groceries into her car. Now, it should be noted that she was on her phone yelling into it, saying something like, "The man who used food stamps should be ashamed, and my card declined because it was his fault." But I just looked at her and I said, "No, it was not my fault." She then looked at me, but I just ignored her. She then looked at my car, which is a 2007 Honda, and she said to me, "You don't have money for groceries, but you can have a nice car? That doesn't make any sense." I then looked at her car, which is a nice Cadillac, and I said to her, "Well, I take care of my car, that's why it looks nice." After that, I just continued from there, and I left off from the store by basically saying, "You had no right to say the things you did towards me just because you didn't like that my cart was full and that I was using food stamps to pay. So go take your rude assumptions and shove them somewhere else. Good day to you." I then slammed the door of my car and then I left, and honestly, I don't feel bad in the slightest. Wow, that entitled Karen was completely out of line. Like, seriously, food stamps and other welfare-based services are there to help people out who really need it. And I'm willing to bet that the original poster in this story is an honest person, and they're not just using the government to get food stamps in some kind of way. Like, it really does seem that they actually need this very badly, and their reasons are also incredibly private. Like, they don't have to go around and announce their story to everybody around them. They just want to get their groceries and get out of there just like anybody else. And I also just love the karma that came into play right when the original poster left the store. Like, this Karen's card declines right after this original poster leaves, and that's right after her being like, "Oh my god, my money goes towards people like you." But then her card gets declined, so it's like, well, what's your money going towards? It's clearly not on your card, lady. So honestly, to the original poster, sir, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, but also I think you handled it incredibly well. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with the way he reacted. In my opinion, I think it's very important to stand up for yourself and defend your own name, especially against somebody who clearly just wants to put you down. Like, standing up for yourself in that way, in my opinion, does not make you a bad person, and it definitely doesn't make you rude. Because at the end of the day, this entitled Karen started all of this. And if she had just kept her mouth shut, then everybody could have walked away from this situation a little bit better. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling another dad that his kids are weird because they're homeschooled? Because right now he is really upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So we had this family move across the street who coincidentally has boys the same age as mine. They're 14, 10, and 6 years old. Unfortunately, the kids are homeschooled, so my kids wouldn't be able to find them into the social fold. I arranged a play date last weekend for the 14-year-olds to hang out, and my son was clearly uncomfortable with the other kid. The other kid said he wasn't allowed to play video games or eat anything that wasn't organic. Now, I'm a pretty involved dad, but even that was odd. Basically, this kid wanted to teach my son about his trumpet and talk about Legos. It was like watching my 14-year-old try to play with a 10-year-old. After a few hours, the other kid left, and my son quickly went to his friend's house. I saw this kid's dad, and he asked me if everything was good between the boys. I said I assume so, and he said his son asked if he wanted to hang out on Super Bowl Sunday, and my son said no as he was having friends over. He asked if he could come over, and my son said no. I asked my son, and he said the other kid was weird and made him feel uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, okay, fair enough. So I went back to the dad and asked if his kids have friends outside of the family. He asked why, and I said that they're not social. I'm not trying to be mean, but they don't know how to interact with other kids. He said they were very mature for their age, but I said, dude, you comb your 14-year-old son's hair. Like, I can't force my kid to be friends with your kid because he's so unlike other boys his age. He then said, are you saying my son is weird because he's homeschooled? And I said, yeah, I'm not a perfect dad and neither are my kids. I'm just saying that your kid is oblivious on what other kids his age like. He can hang out with my 10-year-old if he likes. He then said that I was a terrible neighbor, and I just said whatever. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yeah, you are definitely the jerk in this situation. Just because somebody's homeschooled doesn't mean that they're going to be automatically awkward. And for you to blame this kid's awkwardness on him being homeschooled is really weird. Like, I have plenty of friends who have been homeschooled and they are just as normal as anybody else. And I've also had friends who were like going to public schools themselves, and they were some of the biggest weirdos on planet Earth. Like, how you received an education is not a reflection of your personality. Like, maybe this is a case where the homeschooled kid is just kind of awkward, and that's literally all there is to it. And the fact that he plays his trumpet and plays with Legos is not that big of a deal as a 14-year-old. So yes, to the original poster, I absolutely think you're a jerk. The way you handled this was incredibly rude, and I don't blame your neighbor for getting upset. My husband doesn't want to contribute any more money to our household, choosing to instead stay home and play video games while barely making $16,000 a year. And I'm now at my wit's end, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so just to clarify, this is a throwaway account because my husband follows my main one. My husband is 30 years old and I am 31 years old, and we are hitting a rough spot right now. I make about $45,000 a year in my job, and he makes about $16,000. If this was his dream job, I could totally be okay with that, but it isn't. It's just an awful job with awful pay. I hate my job and desperately want to change out of my career, but I'm currently stuck because my parents are sick and I have to stay in the area to take care of them. I live in a very rural area with very little opportunity for my degree. He does not have a college education, he doesn't really want a college education, and he has no idea what he really wants to do except play video games when he's home. I tried to ask him to contribute more in the household, and he just blows up on me. He knows that I have a really good amount of money saved up from before we were married, so he says that we're fine. Once my parents are gone, I want to leave this nightmare and buy a house, and I would like a mortgage that isn't too crazy, so I want to put back as much as possible to save as much money as we can. He says that I'm too focused on money, and he gets really upset every time I ask him to look into another job that at least offers benefits so that I can maybe look for one that doesn't. He refuses and has brought up divorce many times. And I also think that the divorce comment comes from the fact that we haven't spent quality time together in literal months, if you know what I mean. I am very passionate about that, and he always did too until about 2 years ago, ago when he got on antidepressants. He's never been physically awful to me, but he is volatile when approached with what I consider reasonable solutions to lighten my load. For example, if I ask him if he could do slightly more work around the house, it will only result in him getting angry and telling me he needs a list if he's going to do something. I mean, he will sweep and dry the dishes, but usually only once I prompt him to do it. But if I also make a list for him, he'll do all of it wrong. I'm just so tired all of the time. My job is mentally draining. Taking care of my parents is a chore, and I feel like he makes more of a mess than he helps with. He is also expensive to live with. He has no concept of a budget because we are just so much better off than so many people. And sure, that might be true, but I want security. If something happens to me, he is screwed after a year or two tops. Plus, I don't want to bring this up, but that is all my money that I saved from before. And together, we have added about $20,000 since we got married about 4 years ago. I just don't know what to do. He really is wonderful to be around and treats me well 80% of the time. He makes dinner all the time, and I've never been around someone that I don't feel exhausted after being with outside of my parents. So it was incredible when I found him. He doesn't want to go to couples therapy, so I don't know how to fix this. So specifically, what can I do to make this better? Should I just continue to contribute more and let him do his own thing? Is there a way to bring it up that doesn't make it feel like he's emasculated? What should I do? Honestly, the fact that this guy brought up divorce all because you want him to do more around the house is a massive red flag in my opinion. This guy is 30 years old. $16,000 a year at 30 is not doing that well. And it really does sound like he sees your income and whatever money you've saved up as something that he can net as well. Like, this guy really does sound incredibly lazy and very rude. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel very frustrated with the way this guy is acting. He could very easily get to work and make a lot more money than that, but it sounds like he's really just kind of spoiled on what's going on in his life. And he sees your money as his money. And that is seriously not okay. So truly, with whatever you decide to do, I think it's really important for some change to happen. Because honestly, at this rate, it really seems like you're going to be the one and only breadwinner of this family. My girlfriend broke up with me because she has realized that she's a lesbian. And the weirdest part about this is that this is not the first time this has happened to a former girlfriend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been dating this girl for just about 2 months. We were head over heels in love with each other. I gave her everything I could, and she gave it right back as well. We did everything from weekly date nights to cooking meals together, and even had a few trips later in the year planned with each other that we were both super excited for. I had known that she was queer going into the relationship, and this doesn't bother me at all as I'm already surrounded by many queer people in my life, and she had even met many of my friends and loved spending time with me and them. Well, last night while we were on the phone, I could tell something was off. She wasn't her normal peppy self and seemed like something really was bothering her. I didn't think anything was wrong as I'd been sick that day and the day before, and she had been texting me throughout to make sure I was feeling well and taking care of myself and all that other stuff. Normally when she would be upset, she would immediately tell me what was wrong, as she was pretty open and a very honest person. Well, finally she opened up and told me that she wasn't ready to be in a committed relationship and she needed time alone to work on herself. I asked her if anything specific had made her feel that way, as just the day prior she was gushing to me about how much she loved me and wanted to be with me for a long time. She eventually told me that a coworker had asked her if she was sure that she wasn't a lesbian, and that question was eating away at her, and she wasn't sure if she was into men anymore, and that it was unfair to me to keep leading me on, and it was better to end the relationship early than to keep letting it drag on. Of course, this broke my heart because I was really truly happy and I was in love with her. Obviously, all of this is very fluid, and I can't be mad at her for wanting to be alone to figure things out by herself, but the sudden end of what I thought was going to be a long and happy relationship really hurts. Now, 7 months prior, my ex of 2 years had ended things with me the same way. Both of them reiterated that it was not because of me, and that I was actually the sweetest guy that both of them had ever met. A short-term fling in college had also ended the same way. So I'm just starting to wonder, has anyone else had similar experiences to this? I'm the only person in my friend circle to have had a relationship end this way. And on top of that, having multiple end this way just feels so wild to me. What should I do? So I really believe that this is just a coincidence, and I think it's really important for you to realize that this is not about you. I know you might think there's some kind of pattern here, or like maybe there is something that you're doing that you don't know about, but I really think this is just one of those situations where like lightning has struck twice, and it's not indicative of anything that you have or have not done in these relationships. And I think the best evidence of that is the fact that these girls have said, hey, you were really really nice and you're awesome. And they were at least kind enough to cut things off when they did understand certain things about themselves. So I really wouldn't be too hard on yourself. This really does seem like a freak incident, and I don't think this is any reason for you to beat yourself up. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for finally making a comeback at my boyfriend's repeated jokes about my appearance? Because right now he is very upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. So last night my boyfriend and I were in a playful mood and fake fighting, all while laughing. And so before bed, I came to his place so we could spend some time together, as we are both full-time university students and he works as well. So we use this time to catch up, cuddle, work on our assignments near each other, and just have dinner together and so on. Anyways, I get the giggles and I'm giddy, and my boyfriend's playing along, but asked me to get along and come with him to brush his teeth, as well as get ready for bed. We were both enjoying each other as far as I could tell, and I make jokes and follow him whilst continuing to be a bit silly and giggly. We get into it playfully as we are brushing our teeth, and he may have joked about having to trim his beard, so I grabbed his face. I wouldn't say it was too hard at all, because I meant to pat his overgrown beard and did so while we both laughed it off. Well, apparently it was a bit too excited to grab, because his first instinct was to grunt and squeal and slap one side of my face a bit too hard, but didn't explain, but was kind of frustrated. And this is also important because this man has a temper. Now, I was visibly shocked, and I smiled and said, I don't reckon it was that hard. He suggested that it was, and I said if it was, I didn't mean it like that. Granted, I was giddy, and I could have been more aggressive than intended, but he could just say so next time. I was distraught, but the atmosphere was still light. He responds by flicking his wet toothbrush at me and spraying me with a splash of water, and at this point, I'm appalled. But we joke about it, and I ask him to step away from me so I can wash my face first. He doesn't apologize, but it all ends fine, and we head to bed. So sure, maybe I was being a little bit too giggly and overreacted with the face grab thing, which is fine, but that's at least one argument that I can avoid. We head to bed, and my giggle was clearly contagious. I'm scrolling on my phone, waiting for him to head to bed, and he's making all these jokes back and forth. I'm a bit on guard from the situation, but I just want some alone time on my phone before bed. Then my boyfriend makes a comment that's been on repeat about me having a mustache, and that is a touchy subject for a female. I have asked him repeatedly to stop teasing me, and if it is a real concern, to please just tell me, as no lady wants to run around with a stash that she very clearly doesn't want there. Obviously, he ignores me and keeps bringing it up in banter and assuring me that I do not actually have a mustache, but has never respected my request to stop teasing me and bringing it up in banter or even half-serious banter. Needless to say, it definitely struck a chord, and it ruffled a feather or two as he cracked himself up as I sat there with my mouth open. So at this point, I'm annoyed, and I have to say something. Now, I know it's a touchy subject for men and not something to joke about, but my boyfriend crossed a line. So I said to him, well, if nothing's off limits for you, then nothing's off limits. And then I made a comment about his performance in certain aspects of our lives, if you know what I mean. Well, when I said that, he immediately turned on his side away from me and wouldn't talk to me, except to snap at a reel accidentally going off, and would not let me hug him when I finally went to sleep. He physically and aggressively pushed my arm away and off of him. He is much stronger than I am, and when he makes me upset, he usually pulls me in for a cuddle against my will, even if I asked him not to and I try to pull away. Well, fast forward, and he left this morning before I woke up, and I have not heard from him all day. I do regret the comment, but I am reluctant to reach out because I don't want him to think that what he said was okay. So how long can he keep ignoring and disrespecting me while acting like every time he makes a comment about my physical appearance, it is somehow the funniest comment he could ever make? I'm not trying to justify my comment, and I don't want him to think that only he has the right to say whatever he wants about me, or even about my appearance, even after asking him not to on multiple occasions. I also don't mean to come off as incredibly revengeful, but I was just sick and tired of this specific comment especially. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? This is a classic case of you can dish it, but you cannot take it. This guy's making fun of you about something that you do not like, and when you turn the tables, oh, suddenly you crossed a line. But it's like, oh, okay, but what about the fact that you're saying she's got a mustache? Like, I'm pretty sure that crossed a line like several moments back. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I think that your boyfriend got a serious taste of his own medicine, and if he's offended by that, then maybe he knows just a little bit about the way you feel. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law that I make way too much money at my job to suddenly quit it just to become a stay-at-home mom? Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm a 31-year-old female, and I am a manager for a cybersecurity cybersecurity engineering for a big tech company. My husband is an internal medicine specialist, and I make over $200,000 a year, and he recently started making his full salary at around $400,000 a year. We had our first child around 2 years ago, and I'm pregnant with our second. My family is pretty open-minded about it, but my husband's family are very old-fashioned, and since we are Japanese, there is a consensus from them that women who are married with children should not be working. My husband is very lucky as he has less loans than other doctors, just over $130,000, but that's because his family paid a lot of it off already. So I've been getting hints from them that I should be a stay-at-home mom and leave the money making to my husband. I don't want to leave my job, and my company is relatively understanding. I got 6 months off of work for my first child and was able to keep my current position. The male members of my team are also able to take paternity leave, so I don't see why I would have to leave my job. I also paid most of the bills while my husband wasn't making much as a resident. My aunt was a stay-at-home mom, and to make more income in her retirement, she babysits my son. She's also going to be looking after my youngest child when my maternity leave ends. I've also been guilted by other moms, especially my husband's coworkers' wives, since most of them who are also not doctors become stay-at-home moms. But I don't see why I need to. My husband and I outsource all of our cleaning, our grocery delivery, our lawn maintenance, so honestly, all we do is cook. Almost all of our time at home is spending time together as a family, and apart from the rare occasion we both work 9 to 10 hours a day, with me working a bit less as I don't have to commute. Even then, we still have a lot more than if I were a stay-at-home mom. But my mother-in-law has commented how it's not right that I outsource these things because a mother shows her love by cleaning after her kids and her husband. My mother-in-law recently came over, and while eating dinner, she said the food was great and complimented me, and I said that my husband made the food. And when I said that, she was shocked. She said it wasn't right that my husband had to do any work after his long shift. I then got annoyed and said that I was working longer than him today, and she said, well then you should just quit so you don't have to. I then got mad, and I told her I save over $12,000 a month after paying to outsource, so I didn't have any interest in doing it anyways. And with that money, we can send our children to top schools and have undergrad and possible graduate school paid for. So it's ridiculous to expect me to quit just because she has an old-fashioned idea that women need to be on their knees scrubbing away. My mother-in-law was offended, but my husband told her it's already been settled and I'm going to still be working. But everybody always tells me that I'm a bad mom if I don't quit my job, and it all has me really worn down at this point. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. Your mother-in-law's just a busybody. She thinks that just because she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom somehow means that you automatically have to do that yourself. And if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't want to quit either. You have a very successful job, you earn a lot of money, as does your husband, and you're clearly doing really well figuring things out between the two of you. So like, why would you quit? Just so you can stay at home and not work that high-paying job? It's not like you're not taking care of your family. You clearly have it worked out between you and your husband. And honestly, that's like the only person who has a say in anything that happens in that house. So no, of course you're not a jerk. Your mother-in-law's being really weird, and if I was in your shoes, I would just try to ignore her. My entitled mother-in-law steals my entire collection of vintage keys, selling it at a pawn shop just so she can buy herself a new phone. Things got so bad that the police got involved and my mother-in-law eventually got arrested. And now, as a result, my wife is walking out of our house claiming that I had no right to have her mother arrested. And I'm honestly at the point where I'm considering a divorce, leaving me completely unsure of what to do next. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother-in-law is insanely entitled, and my wife's enabling of her has made our marriage very hard at times. My mother-in-law has come to us for money a lot because she keeps spending herself into a hole since she is a hoarder and a shopaholic. Her house is full of garbage, junk, and unopened stuff that she never uses. The house is rodent infested too, and she has one semi-clean room in the whole building, with that room being the master bedroom. She's mocked it up like a little studio apartment with a futon to sleep on and use as a couch, an entertainment center with a TV and streaming, and a makeshift kitchen consisting of the adjoining bathroom, a mini fridge, and a microwave. My mother-in-law is also overweight because she eats out a lot. So anyways, recently my mother-in-law came to us wanting me specifically to buy her a new smartphone as an unprompted gift, and she threw a fit when I refused. And I mean like a child temper tantrum kind of fit. Now, why did she want a new phone so suddenly? Hers was 2 years old. That is literally it. As far as I know, it still worked fine. Even my wife has confirmed this, but my mother-in-law was resolute that she deserved a new phone. And before leaving, leaving, my mother-in-law yelled at us that we're supposed to be pampering her now that she's an old woman, but she's only 53. My wife also didn't want to buy her mother the phone because she gave her money not long before to make sure her bills were paid. I have quite a collection of vintage skeleton keys, and I mean these are really good ones, like ones that go to very specific hotels, the large ornate sergeants, brass railroad keys, reading hardware, etc. My collection as a whole should easily be worth $2,000 to $3,000. Some of those keys are super rare, and I keep them in a locked display cabinet. But a few days ago, I came home to find my entire collection was gone. The cabinet had been forced open, and when I checked our CCTV for the living room, I saw my mother-in-law force open the cabinet with a small crowbar. And when I saw that, I seriously thought I was gonna lose my mind. After she forced open the cabinet, she then put all the keys in a couple of boxes that she brought with her and then left right away with them. I called my mother-in-law right away and demanded that she return my collection. Well, she nonchalantly told me that she sold the entire collection at a pawn shop already and she used the money for her new phone. Then she said it was my fault and she just had to do it because I wouldn't give her the money. My wife was seemingly on my side all the way up until I said I was going to call the police. She begged me to just drop it and even suggested that I just start a new collection, but I refused to let it go because a lot of those keys are not only expensive, they're also irreplaceable. I spent 10 years building that collection, but my wife kept blowing up on me and telling me to just let it go. So I slept in the guest bedroom that night and sought online help the next day when my best friend told me to try the internet. I had been lurking on some message boards before, but making an account was just honestly too hard. My mother-in-law has been trouble in the past, but this is the first time that I know of that she'd stolen from us. I needed help, so I asked online. The resounding advice finally made me pull my head out of my you-know-what to realize that I was the only one keeping my marriage afloat, and it would likely never get any better if my wife wasn't on my side when her own mother steals something irreplaceable to me. Now, to answer some quick questions that I've got, honestly, first of all, how did my mother-in-law get into the house? Well, my wife unilaterally gave her a key when we moved in. Secondly, why did I have CCTV cameras in the living room? But like seriously, I had to do that. Why wouldn't you do that if you had something valuable on display there? Now, my mother-in-law was not on any kind of illegal substance or anything like that. She's just always been this crazy. I'm also checking to see if she's been stealing from us and we just haven't noticed. And trust me, I've checked everywhere that I can think of. And the thing is, I don't even know what phone she got. But knowing her, it was probably one of the cheaper smartphones with the amount of money that she got selling my stuff. Now, here's another question that I needed to figure out. Did my wife use my money to placate her mother before? And the answer is yes, she absolutely did. We primarily have separate accounts, but we do have a joint account that we pay bills with, so it's not used for savings. In 2 years of marriage, I'd say it happened roughly 5 times. Every time my wife took money from the joint account for her mother, she always replaced it on her next payday. Though in hindsight, I think she only did so because she knew I'd never let it go, because she would always have an attitude with me for a few days afterwards. I was in a bad marriage fog before, but this whole situation has snapped me right out of it. The next question I have is, will I lock down my credit? But trust me, I've already done that. Though I'm not sure my wife or her mother would be so stupid as to do something like that after my mother-in-law was recently arrested. Now, I have gotten my collection back, and I have it hidden in a place where my wife and my mother-in-law have no idea where it is. And with all things considered, this honestly is such a big mess. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has more additions to the story. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so back to what happened that day. The police did come along and take my statement a bit over an hour after I called the non-emergency line. I had video footage and the documentation of my collection ready, and then there were some text messages I went out of my way to get from my mother-in-law just to bait her into a confession. I wanted as much evidence as possible so she couldn't lie to the police. When I texted her back demanding that she get my collection back, she actually laughed and told me not a chance. And she even boasted that she thought I was a pathetic son-in-law and my key collection was tacky anyways. I told her to at least tell me what pawn shop she sold the keys to so I could buy them back myself, and how much they paid her for my collection. And the dimwit admitted it all right away with glee in the text message. So I had everything I needed for the police before they even showed up. The cops took the whole matter more seriously than I thought. I was worried they'd call it a civil matter since the theft was my mother-in-law and she had the key to the house. But they arrested my mother-in-law before long, and police went to the pawn shop before it closed to retrieve my collection collection. I got it all back from the police after a couple of days, and for the moment, I've put the collection in a safe place like I mentioned, which is somewhere where no one can find it. The pawn shop pretty much gave up the entire key collection to the police right away, almost as if it was a hot bag of potatoes. Though I scrutinized every important key brought back, and as far as I can tell, it's all there. So there was a huge sigh of relief. I took time off work and barely slept for 2 days because of this ordeal. Also, the cabinet that my mother-in-law broke into is pretty much a loss since she mangled the lock and doors prying it open. Thankfully, it wasn't an antique and just something I got for about 50 bucks, so I'm just going to take it to the dump sooner or later. From her text messages before, I found out my mother-in-law sold the whole collection to the pawn shop for a whopping total of $300. And this is for a collection of hundreds of antique keys, valued at $2 to $3 grand as a total. I mean, that low number felt like a punch in the gut to me. Likely, the pawnbroker knew how valuable the collection could be as a whole. I mean, it's not like hitting the jackpot or anything like that, but money is still money, especially when a dumb lady walks in with a box of goodies. Anyone else hear Mr. Krabs laughing in the background? Because I certainly do. Anyways, the cost of repayment to the shop was supposed to be on my mother-in-law, but my wife paid them back out of our joint account instead. From what the shop owner said, my mother-in-law told them the key collection belonged to her deceased husband, and she was sick of the whole collection sitting in storage, so they just believed her. But just to be clear, she is not a widow. Her husband divorced her and left the state about 15 years ago. My mother-in-law lives on Social Security and food stamps. She also holds garage sales every few months, and she often demanded our soda and beer cans so that she can get the deposit money recycling them. She doesn't drive and gets around on an electric scooter that tows a bicycle trailer. She lives in a long paid-off house, and she would not be having money troubles if she wasn't overspending every single month. And she always counts on my wife to pick up the slack when she comes up short. My wife and I got into a fight when she got home because I had her mother arrested, but I told her I'm done with her enabling her toxic mom. I said I was changing the locks as soon as possible, and I'm banning her mother from the house. I also said that either we get marriage counseling or I would be inquiring about my options for separation from an attorney. Now, I thought my wife would beg me not to do that, but instead she called me horrible, packed up a suitcase, and walked out to go to a motel. And you know what? I just sat on the couch and I let her go. She repeatedly looked like she was waiting for me to ask her to stay, but I didn't. In the morning, she texted me that she would be bailing her mother out and wanted me to transfer her the money to pay for it since I was the one who got her mother arrested. When I said no, all I got back was a sarcastic message that said, "Wow," and that was it. Not long after, I had a gut feeling and I checked the balance on the shared bank account, and my wife had taken out a lot of money. I wasn't sure if all that was needed for bail, so I called the pawn shop later. The owner confirmed my wife had come in and paid him back the $300 that he'd paid her mother for the keys. He was also quite angry and said he didn't want any of us in his shop ever again. And you know what? I understand his anger. And weirdly enough, I had a fairly long talk with this guy, and he understands now that I'm not part of the crazy. I tried to call and text my wife for hours, but she didn't answer. That evening, I managed to find her. I knew which motel she would likely go to, and I was right. It was both cheap and not very far away. I found her car and then figured out which room she was in. She looked positively shocked to see me when she opened the door. I confronted her about the money she'd used for our shared bank account, and she basically said that since I refused to pay her mother's bail after I was the one who had her arrested, she got the money from me another way. Then she smugly stated she wasn't paying that money back into the shared account this time and told me that's the karma I get, all before shutting the door in my face. She then said through the door that she would call the police on me if I didn't leave. The smug look she'd given me reminded me of nasty teenage girls when they get their way, and it really ticked me off. I already knew my marriage was pretty much over, but that night it really sank in. I had a long sit down with some old video games and some soda just to think about my future. The house is rented, so I'm not renewing my half of the lease, and soon I'm gonna be apartment hunting. The last month of the lease is March, but I may even leave sooner, depending on how soon I can find an apartment. We have no kids yet, thank God, so that's another thing I currently have in my favor. The next day, I changed the locks on the house, and I removed all my money from the joint bank account, and I stopped all automatic payments to and from it. I made sure to take only the amount of money that I put into the account. There was still more than enough in it for me to break even and still leave the minimum required balance on the account. Either way, the cost of my mother-in-law's bail and paying back the pawn shop was now entirely out of my wife's pocket now. And I don't think she's noticed yet, but it shouldn't be long. I've been to a couple different divorce lawyers already, and I picked the second one since the first one seemed like they were only there for a paycheck. I'll have the divorce papers served very soon. I love my wife, but it's clear that she didn't love me, so I can't stay with her anymore. She can have her thieving hoarder mommy all to herself now. We both have very comparable incomes, so I'll be pushing for a clean split divorce. This woman didn't deserve me, and I fell for her act. She didn't want a husband, she wanted an insurance plan. And I just want to be clear on this, I won't be changing my mind about divorce. My soon-to-be ex-wife can beg and love bomb me as much as she wants. That is, if she even bothers to do that. I've never been her number one, and I am not gonna settle for being number two in my own marriage. Wow, what a crazy turn of events. First of all, the mother-in-law is crazy for breaking into your stuff to steal your collection. Like, that is insane to me, and if anything, you're probably patting yourself on the back for making sure you had cameras set up. I mean, just imagine if you didn't have cameras, and this mother-in-law steals your stuff and you have no proof. You literally have no evidence. Like, that would be a nightmare to deal with, because you literally would have lost your stuff with no evidence. I can't imagine going through what you're going through, as well as the way your wife is also treating you. Like, the way her mom is acting is not defendable. The fact that she's trying to be like, wow, you put her in jail, how could you do that? All while she's just ignoring the fact that she robbed you guys blind. Like, I'm sure she would be singing a much different tune if this mother-in-law stole something from her instead of you. Like, this whole scenario is messed up, and I'm so sorry that it's gotten to this point, but it sounds like you have a solid game plan. And for the sake of your happiness and your future, I hope it all works out in the end. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My wife has been cheating on me since she was pregnant, and I only found out because I went through her phone while she was in surgery, and now I'm at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so as the title says, I found out my wife started cheating while she was pregnant. She stopped cheating on me after we had the baby and started cheating again after the baby was 14 months old. She was turned off by me because she had to work while she was pregnant with our son. My wife is not very work motivated. She actually hates working and always wanted to be a housewife even before we had kids. But this just isn't ideal as we live in an expensive town. I have been suspicious of my wife because she is really secretive on her phone. I went through her phone 4 days ago while she was under surgery. I had a good 3 hours to go through everything, and she tried deleting a lot of things, and I found out that she's been cheating on me with several different men. She vented to her friends a lot about her feelings, like how she's married to a woman because I can't provide her with everything she wants, and she started to resent me when she told me she wanted to quit her job when she was pregnant and wanted to be a housewife while she was pregnant. She told her friends that she cheated on me. She vented to them about the affairs, and she told them that I'm not a real man because I make her work, and she's turned off how I'm not traditional in the financial sense, and how she looks at me like a feminine boy. Her friends were supportive and listened to her because they were friends since middle school and high school. Now, I know everyone's going to ask how she did find the time to cheat, but as a quick background, we are Asian, and that means we get a lot of family support. Our families are always active and there for us no matter how old we are. We don't use daycare services since our parents are the daycare. Our parents are retired and happily take care of our son. We have a lot of free time with all the family help that we get, but the downside is because of our cultural background, this is the reason why we can't get a divorce. It is highly frowned upon in the community, and literally nobody in the family has ever had a divorce, and it would be embarrassing for my entire family if I started. I confronted my wife about this the next day because she was in surgery the first day, and the pain medicine was making her tired and sleepy, and she wouldn't be able to hold a conversation. It was hard not talking about it right away, but I knew it wasn't gonna do any better. Anyway, she said I was wrong for going through her phone, and me going through her phone is worse than what she did, because as a man, I should have been providing for her, because she wanted a housewife lifestyle. She said going through someone's phone is a major invasion of privacy, and nobody has the right to ever go through someone else's phone, especially without some kind of permission. And then she got even more hostile, and started questioning me if I messaged anybody on her phone pretending to be her, and then deleted the evidence about it. This is all just so devastating, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. That is seriously awful, and I cannot believe she's acting that way. Is she really trying to act like her cheating on you is just as bad as you going through her phone? Like, that is crazy to me. There's no way that's even comparable. She was unfaithful in her marriage. You going through her phone is not even close to being the same. It's also also really convenient what she said at the end, where she's like, oh wait, maybe you messaged somebody pretending to be me. Because I guarantee you, if you do go through with getting a divorce in some kind of way, or if you even try to expose her to everybody else around you, she's gonna use that excuse. She's gonna lie and try and turn it on its head towards you. And that is all completely insane in my opinion. So honestly, with whatever you do decide to do, I honestly wish you the best, because what you're going through is completely and utterly unfair. Am I the jerk for being unapologetic about faking being sick for my dad's wedding? Because right now, my dad and his wife are very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so as the title suggests, the wedding happened years ago, but my faking sick became more widely known last week. My grandma was the only person who knew the truth. She's my dad's mom and was the person who stayed with me during the wedding while everyone else went. The reason I faked being sick was I was sad and I wasn't okay with the wedding, but my dad and Kim, who is his wife, wanted me to get on board and find a way to celebrate their joy. I was 9 and my mom had been dead for about 3 years, and I still wasn't feeling great about Kim being here. And I still don't, even to this day, if I'm being honest. My grandma had been really close to my mom as well, and she felt an obligation to be there for me. She didn't scold me or get mad when I told her I was faking it. She had suspected anyways, because she was aware I was struggling with dad getting married again. She also knew I wasn't Kim's biggest fan. For those wondering what I had against Kim, some of it was that she just wasn't a mom and felt like she was taking my mom's place. But she was also pushy and insisted I be her junior bridesmaid and walk her down the aisle at the wedding. She would say things like it was the perfect way to start our mother-daughter relationship, and she also told me it would stop me living in the past because she knew I was upset about my mom more around their wedding. She also overwhelmed me in the months leading up to the wedding by talking about her and dad having kids and how I needed to think of names for future siblings because she wanted to say that I named them, and she wouldn't let up the topic once she realized I wasn't enthusiastic about it. Anyways, my not being at the wedding was always a sore spot for my dad and Kim. My grandma and Kim also had a rivalry post-wedding. Grandma was one of the most important female figures with mom gone, and Kim wanted that to be her. She was jealous of grandma, and grandma just didn't like Kim trying to force things. They bickered a lot over the years about it because Kim would say grandma wasn't important at all. Last week, things took a turn, and Kim told grandma that she was my favorite woman in the world, and I liked her more than anyone, including grandma and including my mom. Grandma laughed at her, and Kim said that she was the primary mother figure of the whole family. Kim lied and told grandma that I tell her everything, and that grandma was the most unimportant person in my life. Grandma then rubbed it in Kim's face that I faked being sick for the wedding. Now, grandma regretted it once she let that slip, and she's been working on making it up to me. But I forgive her because she was the only adult I could talk to. Now, dad and Kim were mad when they heard about what I had done, and they expected me to be apologetic, but I wasn't. My dad asked if I realized how much I had hurt him, and I said yeah, but he didn't care too much about my feelings about it either. Kim said I really hurt her because she did her best to be a loving and welcoming stepmom, and I rejected her so hard that I wouldn't even go to the wedding, and 8 years on still show no regret about it. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You were 9 years old at the time. You were still grieving the loss of your mom, and Kim and your dad were overwhelming you. I don't think they should be holding such a weird precedent set against you, especially when they've done nothing to make that relationship any better. It is so strange to me that they would be holding that against a child. Like, there's no good excuse for that in my opinion, and honestly, that makes them the bad guys in this scenario. So no, you are not the jerk. If I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing, because this entire scenario is very much skewed against you, and you were definitely forced into something that you were not comfortable with in the slightest. An entitled Karen blocks an open parking spot for her friend in New York City, refusing to move out of my way, and even going as far as to mock and laugh at me when I questioned why she's standing there in the way. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. After driving into New York City from New Jersey, I get to the area I'm looking to park around. I have a routine of scanning the same 5 blocks I know well, and it usually works out to where I can find a free street spot in an average of about 10 minutes. Last night, I happened to see a wide open spot on the second block I drive down just after a couple of minutes. Feeling lucky, I turn on my blinker and I start to move over to prepare my parallel park. But there's just one problem. There is a lady standing in the middle of the spot, shaking her head at me with her hands up, motioning for me to stop. At At first, I think that she's assuming I'm an Uber driver or something like that, and she's not the right passenger. So I roll down my window and I say to her, I'm trying to park here. This immediately sets her off, and she begins spewing some nonsense along the lines of saying, no, you can't do that. I'm reserving this spot for my friend who's around the corner. I tell her that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard, and I ask her to remove herself from an open public parking spot. She refuses, arguing that their friend was only a couple minutes away and that she's lived in New York for a long time. She thinks she knows what's right and what's wrong. This was all followed by a maniacal laugh of hers that indicated to me that I wasn't going to get anywhere by further escalating. I decided to drop it and circle around the block. A few minutes pass by, and once I get back to the same spot, it is in fact taken and she is nowhere to be seen. After all of that, I ended up finding someone else leaving a few minutes later, but I was still left fuming at the thought of someone so entitled. I realized later that I should have recorded her because it was so unbelievable to encounter someone like that. I mean, has anyone ever heard of this unspoken rule that she thinks exists, that you could stand in a spot for someone else? She didn't really take the time or have the grace to explain the circumstances of it all, but instead she just said, no, you can't park here, my friend's coming. Again, this is a free public open spot that she was blocking with her body. I've never seen or heard of that before, so alas, I want to turn to the internet to find some answers. Yeah, I know if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would be super annoyed. You're literally just trying to park your car and this Karen comes out of nowhere and blocks you. Now, I don't know the laws of New York City, but I think just out of common courtesy, it's probably not okay to block an open parking spot with your body. Like, not only is that dangerous, but like, what if the guy didn't see this lady standing there? It is unlikely, but it definitely happens to other people. Like, she could have seriously gotten hurt, and that was all for what? Trying to save a spot for your friend? And the way she laughed about it, that really would have ticked me off as well. Like, that kind of behavior and attitude is so unnecessary, and it's just incredibly rude. Now, if anyone does know the laws of New York City, please let us know down below in the comment section, but in my opinion, I think what she's doing is probably very wrong, and not even mentioning the safety factors that come into all of this. Like, I can't imagine that's a legal way of like blocking a spot in New York City, because if that is, that really is a weird precedent to set for that city in general. So let us know down in the comments, what do you think? Do you think that lady was a Karen for blocking that spot, or do you think she was in the right to try and save that for her friend? Let us know down below. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I served my wife divorce papers while she was at work, all because she took her mother's side when her mother robbed me of something that was important to me. And I'm now just hoping that this process goes well, as I'm really looking to get away from my wife. Here's what happened. This story is an update to a previous story we covered on the channel, where the original poster had his mother-in-law arrested after she stole a vintage collection of keys that the original poster had locked away in a cabinet. As a result of the mother-in-law getting arrested, the wife has walked out on the husband and has decided to side with her mother-in-law. And now the original poster is considering divorce. Here's what he had to say next. Okay, to start things out, it really didn't take me long to find and hire a divorce lawyer. And trust me, she is mean. Yes, my lawyer is a woman, and she seems pretty good at her job. She asked me a couple of times if I really was sure that I wanted to do this. But once I explained my full story to her and showed some evidence, she agreed with me when I said I wanted to start as soon as possible. So she got the ball rolling. She told me how much this divorce was going to cost me, but I don't care. I will rebuild my savings later as a free man. I didn't even want to rent the house I'm currently living in anyways. My wife made sure of that. I would have been happy staying in our old apartment that we used to share until we could have actually afforded to buy a house together instead. But that's obviously never gonna happen. I will be paying a lot less for an apartment once we separate. Before coming home, my wife spent some time at a cheap motel when she bailed her mother out of jail. And she even threatened to call the police on me when I went to see her there. I changed the locks with my landlord's permission while my wife was still away, and I sent her a text saying that I'd done so. But I guess she had not bothered to look since she never responded. So upon returning home, she ended up pounding on the door and screaming at me to let her in. I just watched her through the doorbell cam and let her keep it up for a while before she finally got on her phone to call me. I was already walking home from having had dinner with my best friend when she called, and I pointed out the text message that she did not even bother to read. When I got home to let her in, she was puffy-cheeked, teary-eyed, and very red. I had a new key ready for her, and I told her if she gave a copy to her mother again, I would be notifying our landlord, as they were very angry that she had given her mother a key to begin with. I'm not sure what the landlord could have done, but it was enough for my wife to comply for the moment. Plus, I'm not going to be living here much longer anyways. Now, my mother-in-law still believes that she did absolutely nothing wrong and is playing the victim to my wife every chance that she gets. She is not allowed over anymore for obvious reasons, and I've been repeatedly called a monster by her and my wife. I've never been more glad that my mother-in-law has no friends, because then she'd be telling them all her convoluted version of the story just to paint me as a villain. I just know it. She was told how much my key collection is roughly worth and what kind of felony charges she will be facing. Now, since my collection was returned fully intact, she may get the charges lessened. I would like to hope she gets a decent punishment at least, but I'm not really counting on the system to throw a book at a manipulator like her. As I said in my previous post, my wife also paid her mother's bail and what she owed the pawn shop with money out of our joint bank account, and then smugly told me that she wouldn't be putting the money back. And basically, that was a terrible power move and her only way to try and put all the cost on me. I have since removed everything I had in that account and stopped all future payments to it so she can't spend my money too. And I've changed my passwords to pretty much everything. Well, my wife finally flipped out on me when she finally checked the bank account a couple of days ago, because that meant that she had paid for her mother's bail and the reimbursement of the pawn shop, all with her own money. And now there was no more access to my funds to supplement her own with. But I just ignored her tantrum and went into the home office to watch anime on my computer. She banged on the door for a while, demanding that I talk to her, but I just stayed quiet and put on headphones. My wife has repeatedly demanded that I drop all charges against her mother, and even said that if I really love her, I would not only stop all of this, but I would cover the cost too. When I kept refusing, she moved into the spare bedroom. She tried to kick me out of the master bedroom first, but I made it clear I'm not giving up the master bedroom when she is the one at fault. She then tried to start taking my stuff out, but I just blocked her while pointing my finger at her face and saying no, as if I was talking to a dog. She ended up crying and saying I was demeaning her, but I just didn't care. Then, for some more deception on her part, she admitted to me out of pure spite that until this mess had started, she had been planning on letting her mother come and live with us full time, all because of the state of her hoarder house. She actually boasted that she was just gonna let her move in while I was at work. I told her we were supposed to be equal partners before this all happened, and I was sick of her unilateral decision making. And as long as I'm paying 50% of the lease, her mother will not be living here with us. And if she tried, I would throw all of her mother stuff out immediately. My wife looked like she wanted to explode and stormed off to have a drink and a loud phone call with her mother in the kitchen. But I just started removing her stuff from the master bedroom and I left it in the other room for her. I've put a new lock on the door on the master bedroom as well. I had my wife served at her job, which she said really embarrassed her in front of her colleagues. And she flipped out on me again once she got home. Apparently, she didn't take my threats of divorce seriously until those papers were actually in her hands. She said I couldn't do this, but I told her I was done. She made it more than clear where she stands. I told her I learned a rather interesting phrase online. When people show you who they are, you should believe them. And she's clearly shown me who she really is. And it's not the woman that I fell in love with. That woman disappeared and got replaced with an entitled mommy's girl who refuses to act her age right after we got married, which makes it pretty obvious she did that intentionally. At this point, I don't think she ever loved me. She only loved my wallet. I can't stay married to a woman who conned me into marrying her. Then she started screaming at me that she wasn't a gold digger, so I asked her if she'd ever been inclined to stay married to me if I'd done all the same things to her. She tried to deny it at first, then looked around while she was trying to find a better answer. Then she just gaslit to deflect as usual, but I was having none of that. I told her right then and there that I'm not renewing the lease on the house with her because I don't want to live with a petulant woman child that I can't trust. And if she wants to keep the house, she can go ahead and start a new lease to move her mother in once I'm gone. Finally, that's when the real waterworks started. She said I was destroying our family, but I said to her, "What family?" And I pointed out how we don't have kids and her mother is more important to her than me. We have no family. Then I just walked away. She loudly cried in the living room for hours, but I ignored her. Now she's giving me the hardcore silent treatment and won't even look me in the eyes. And you know what? I'm actually kind of enjoying it, which just seems to make her angrier. As an added bonus, I warned my current landlord about my wife wanting to move her mother in. I gave him all the details I had about my mother-in-law, the state of her hoarder house, and how much of a deceptive mommy's girl my wife is. And I warned him that if he let my mother-in-law live in any property that he owns, she would turn it into an utter disaster. For reference, my mother-in-law is a hoarder. He thanked me for telling him, and is now not going to let my wife renew the lease on her own if she tries. He will be advertising the property soon, and my wife has no idea yet, and likely would have only just barely been able to afford the house with her mother's help anyways. One more thing. Yesterday, somebody warned me to take my name off the joint bank account entirely, so I would not be on the hook for any overdraft fees. I took that to heart and I went to the bank to get it done. It only took a few minutes to do it, and the bank is about 10 minutes away by car, so we're all good there. I've been working from home lately, so I had the time, and all statements from the account were already printed and given to my lawyer as well, so I can wash my hands of it, and hopefully this whole process goes smoothly. It really sounds like the original poster has gone to the extreme lengths just to try and protect themselves. Like, with this added context as well as the addition to this story, it really seems like the wife just does not care about this guy at all. She very clearly wants to take the side of her mom and choose her over him, which in my opinion is her showing her true colors. And in all actuality, this is really a sad situation, because here you have a partner that you thought you could love and spend the rest of your life with, but the second her crazy mother gets involved in your lives and literally robs you of something that's really important to you, she suddenly turns around and says, well, wait a second, that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But I guarantee you, if your mother-in-law stepped into your house and stole some of your wife's belongings, I bet she would be singing a different tune. So honestly, I hope this all goes well, because it really does sound like a messy divorce, and it doesn't sound like your wife is going to be amicable in the slightest. Am I the jerk for cutting back on my part of the household work, all because my wife doesn't make the kids do theirs? Because right now, I'm getting very frustrated with the current state of affairs, and at this point, I'm not really sure what to do. Here's what happened. Growing up, my wife was parentified by her parents, who expected her to do everything in their house so that they could work. She was basically a live-in nanny, a cook, maid, tutor, and gardener from the time she was 12 all the way up until she left for college. She basically had to hide her intelligence from her mom and dad and applied for scholarships and college admission without them knowing. It took a while for their relationship to heal, but it still affects her. I, on the other hand, grew up on a working ranch. I had chores and I had a lot of them, but my time was my own after they were done. We have been married for 13 years now, and we have 2 kids that we agreed would do chores. The thing is, though, she does not enforce the chores. If the kids don't clean up, she doesn't make them put down whatever they are playing with and make them clean up. If my son leaves his dirty dishes on the couch, she won't make him put it away. We have had several discussions about this. The last one, I had to go get stitches because of something the kids left undone. I told her that she needed to make the kids do their chores, but she said she didn't want them to feel about us the way that she felt about her parents. I said that there was a huge difference between being an unpaid servant and cleaning up after yourself and helping put groceries away. Our kids don't have to help with horses and cattle. Now, I have no problem being the bad guy, so I started making the kids do their chores, and my wife absolutely hated it. And I eventually found out that she started doing their chores so I would think that they did them. So I thought to myself, fine, I'm just gonna stop doing mine as well. Not the yard work and stuff like that, just my part of the housework. She works from home, and she has a home office where she sees clients. So if the house is a mess, it reflects badly on her. So she has been doing everything, and she is angry at me for being so petty. But I don't think it's petty to want to raise useful humans. I don't want my son or daughter not being a full partner in their future relationships. My wife has now told the kids that they have to help, and she is mad that I manipulated the situation to force her hand. Now, like I said, I don't think it's too much for kids to clean up after themselves and help out with all the housework. They are both within 10 years of going away to school, and I want them to be civilized before then. So am I the jerk in this situation for trying to make this happen? Because honestly, I don't think that I am. I am 100% on the original poster side, and I think the fact that the wife in this scenario is like cleaning up after the kids, instead of even attempting to find some kind of like middle ground to work with here, in my opinion, is so unbelievably toxic. Like, sure, you might not like the fact that the kids have to do chores, but at least you can step in and be like, okay, let's do it, but not in the way that makes them want to hate us. Because I think the original poster is the only one thinking rationally in this situation. He's not asking them to do some impossible task. He just wants them to clean up after themselves and do the dishes. Like, is it really that hard? Because I definitely don't think it is. It also sounds like the wife, in my opinion, might need to like work out the way she feels about her parents, because she is projecting hardcore on her husband and assuming that he's gonna do the same thing to her kids that her parents did to her. But that literally is not what's happening here, and she is completely overreacting. So no, I don't think the original poster's a jerk, and I think the way they're going about doing this is completely in the right. Because in my opinion, I think it's very important to teach those skills early on, and those kids are absolutely old enough to learn them. Am I the jerk for going against my mom's wishes and talking to my extended family? Because right now she is super angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I got caught talking to my paternal side of my family against my mom's wishes. My dad passed away when I was 6 years old, and when I was 8, my mom remarried. My mom just had me at the time, and my mom's husband had 2 kids, with my mom being pregnant with their first kid together. Now, my paternal family were the side I actually knew and was the closest to. My mom's family was never around. Nothing changed after my dad passed away, but when my mom remarried, stuff absolutely did. They didn't want my mom's husband or his kids to be included because they were not family. My mom wasn't okay with that and told them they accept all of us or none, and that we all had to be equal. They said I was their grandchild, but not the other kids. So my mom cut them off from us, and she moved us far away to a state where grandparents' rights would be a lot harder to get. And you know what? She was right. She fought like crazy to make sure they won no rights to me. I saved my grandparents' number and stored it away so my mom wouldn't know, and I could talk to them once I had a phone. I ended up back in contact with that whole side of my family when I was 11, and this is also when I had my own phone. We talked a lot, and I told them once I was old enough, I would move back and we could see each other and all this other stuff. My mom and her husband never knew, but they also remained bitterly angry that my paternal family rejected the idea that we could all be equal. Last month, one of my step-siblings heard me talking to my grandparents on the phone and told their dad, who told my mom. And that's right about when the garbage hit the fan, and I got into a lot of trouble. Luckily, I had the number stored somewhere else, so if I did get found out, my mom couldn't stop me having that information for my family. I was grounded for 2 weeks, and then my mom and her husband asked me what in the world I was doing going behind their backs. My mom pointed out that it really hurt my step-siblings' feelings that I was sneaking around with people who rejected them and that they refused to welcome them into their family. She told me I shouldn't be okay with them treating my siblings like they are lesser, and I said it made sense to me since they weren't related to my grandparents or extended family in any way. I told her it would be different if it was her family, but these are my dad's family, and my dad isn't part of the new family that she made. She then told me that by doing this, I had chosen my paternal family over my actual family, and I said yes, and I told her that I would do it again too. I then mentioned how I was only a couple of years away from moving back home and being closer to my family, and that I would be seeing them all the time. Her husband then got so mad, I thought he would burst at the seams, and he said to me, "My kids think the world of you, and they would be so hurt to see that you don't care about their feelings." My mom called me disrespectful and made a big deal about me going behind her back. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Personally, in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with contacting your extended family. Those people are your last connection to your father, who passed away, by the way, and you obviously want to try and stay connected with them in some kind of way. And for your mom to deny you that right to talk to them and have any kind of connection with them, in my opinion, is really toxic, and it's just completely unnecessary. Like, sure, I can understand where she's coming from to an extent, where she feels betrayed that she and her husband and his kids are not going to be welcomed into that side of her family, but that doesn't mean that you should be punished and not allowed to talk to them at all. Like, in my opinion, that is such a big leap in logic, it's not even funny. So honestly, with all that in mind, I don't blame you for going behind their back just to try and establish some kind of connection with them. It's also like super ironic that your stepdad is trying to claim that you don't care about your step-siblings' feelings, as well as getting so mad he's about to explode, but the reality is that they don't care about your feelings. Like, they literally didn't even consider how you feel about this situation and just automatically almost like held you prisoner from talking to your family. Like, if they actually did care about your feelings, they would have allowed you to talk to your father's side of the family instead of getting mad and acting like you're betraying them. But the only thing you're betraying is their weird, like, prideful anger. And the proof of that is the fact that they moved several states away, also that your grandparents couldn't have any contact with you. And it also doesn't help that you have no other extended family because your mom's family's never involved. They literally have no influence in your life in the slightest. So with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk in the scenario. If I was stuck in your situation, I probably would have done the same thing. Because in my opinion, I think you have every right to talk to your extended family. And the fact that they're trying to deny you that privilege is honestly incredibly toxic. My entitled manager tries to boss and bully me around, all because he saw me as a difficult employee, despite the fact that I have customer service awards, as well as high praise from my previous managers. So I decide to get revenge by exposing him for the awful manager that he is, resulting in several people from my company resigning with me en masse. And I've never felt better about getting back at anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, I've worked at my current job for over 3 years. And for most of that time, it has been a small team that is very collaborative, good at listening, and mission focused. Most of this time, I've had a manager by the name of Dylan that is very supportive, listens, and doesn't micromanage. And I've even been applauded and received multiple awards from our customer and directors. And cut to last year in the fall, and we had a huge turnover in management. And in the preceding reorganization, I was moved to be under a different guy by the name of Rick, who is ex-military and is very used to simple sir yes sir responses. He's targeted me and several other employees who voice our opinions in the spirit of improving the overall organization, not just to be difficult or insubordinate. Rick is also super incompetent and poor at time management, and I have to do all of the planning and management for our team and even complete some of his tasks just to keep our organization afloat. Well, last month was evaluation time, and I emailed Rick asking him to involve Dylan in my performance review, since Rick was only my boss for 1 month out of the performance period. Rick refused and wrote me a scathing review that wasn't evidence-based at all. I had sent him multiple references like kudos from the customers and performance awards, and he ensured that I got no raise this year. I complained to HR, and they decided that it needed to be redone with Dylan's involvement. The same day that HR notified everyone of the new plan, Rick came up to me and told me to be careful of how I charge my time, since he noticed I'm away from my desk a lot. And as a side note for context, my job involves collaborating with engineers and engaging with a customer. The next day, he asked me for a list of my current tasks and priorities, as well as deadlines and detailed descriptions of how I perform certain jobs. I went to HR with this information and said it looks suspiciously like retaliation, and they are building a case for firing me. A few days later, I received a written warning for a perceived offense last year, even though there was no real proof from them that I didn't do my job. The timing of everything is very suspicious, and I know that Rick has been investigated and confirmed for creating a hostile work environment for another employee who ended up being relocated to another department to avoid a lawsuit. Fast forward, and I had an interview last week, and I accepted a job offer on Monday. I promptly sent out my notice on Tuesday as my last day, and this is 1 week from a major new system launch. The real kicker here is that I sent out the resignation to the entire company with details about how I was targeted and retaliated against, and how I know I'm not alone in receiving this treatment. I've already heard from multiple coworkers encouraged by my message that were too depressed and stuck to leave that are now looking for other opportunities, and have confirmed that leadership is already having a meltdown. Rick is also being exposed as being completely incompetent, and I was the only other person on his team. The expert staff is about to leave en masse and leave the incompetent leadership to deal with the fallout. I also filled out an exit interview form with even more detail about the situation that will get forwarded from HR up to the directors to see why people are leaving. And honestly, I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Yeah, Rick was 100% trying to get back at you and was very clearly trying to retaliate for some stupid reason. Like, this guy does not know your work ethic at all. He's just some incompetent manager who's trying to bully you around and get you in trouble for literally no reason. And he's probably only doing this because you're asking questions instead of just walking away and doing exactly as you're told. But how is anybody supposed to get anything done if you're not able to ask questions at work? That sounds really counterintuitive and not like a healthy work environment at all. So good for you for getting back at this manager, because clearly Rick absolutely had it out for you. And I bet if you did decide to stick around, he would only try and find another reason to have you fired. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mother ruins my wedding day, as she shows up completely intoxicated and eventually storms out of my wedding when I refuse to make the wedding all about her. And now I'm feeling really bad, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been having a really hard time since my wedding the other day. This is kind of a long one, so bear with me. So the morning of my wedding started off good with my mom. She was all fine and dandy, enjoying her morning at the hotel. She told me that she made an appointment at her hotel to get her hair done at 12:30. Now, I told her my hair and makeup lady would be at my Airbnb at 12 o'clock to help me get ready. Then she started freaking out because she wanted to be there when I was getting ready, but she insisted that she needed to get her hair done. So I told her to either cancel her appointment and come and get ready at the Airbnb, or meet me at my Airbnb at 2 o'clock before we leave for the wedding, or meet me at the chapel at 3 o'clock. She started freaking out on me because she wasn't going to be there for me when I was getting ready. To me, it wasn't even a big deal because everyone was in their own rooms getting ready anyways. She's yelling at me on the phone, telling me how much money she's wasting by being at the hotel and saying that she should be staying at my Airbnb, which, mind you, the only people at the Airbnb were the bridal party, namely me, my husband, his groomsmen, and my bridesmaids. So it wouldn't make sense for her to be there as well. So eventually I get to the chapel and my mom shows up completely drunk. She is saying the most ridiculous things to people and just making a fool out of herself. Meanwhile, I'm basically in a fever dream of excitement, taking pictures with our family before the ceremony. We walk into the chapel and everyone is supposed to go in and sit down so we can start, but she proceeds to dig through a bag to try and give me a gift. I told her I would check it out afterwards because everyone is already in the chapel sitting down. Then she freaks out on me again because I don't want to look at her gifts right then and there. Eventually, the ceremony is over and my now husband and I are so happy, and our photographer takes us to go and take more pictures around the chapel. Eventually, we finish taking pictures and I get back on the party bus to head to the after party, and my mom is not there. I asked my sister what happened, and she said my mom freaked out and took an Uber back to her hotel and left before the after party. The next day comes around and my mom proceeds to text me the worst things I've ever read in my life, basically saying that I embarrassed her and how I'm not her daughter anymore and how my husband is a jerk and that I have a new family and I don't need her, while also saying that she's a bad mother. I literally don't even know where any of that came from, as I was literally busy getting married and barely paid attention to anyone besides my soon-to-be husband in the moment. All I know is that she showed up drunk to my wedding, freaked out, and left, and is now trying to turn it all around on me. I've been feeling awful since then because I wanted my mom to be there to enjoy the day with me, and she had to go and just ruin it. Regardless, I had an amazing day, but it still sucks, and now I feel like I did something wrong even though I know I didn't. No, you definitely did not do anything wrong. You were just trying to have the wedding that you had been looking forward to, but your mom decided to literally make it all about her. She literally ruined that day by being so entitled and spoiled, and that is really not fair for you in the slightest. You did not deserve that, but also it is definitely not your fault. So I think it would be foolish to try and blame yourself at all. Your mom clearly wanted to take away the spotlight from you, and she wanted to try and make this all about her in some kind of weird way. I mean, she showed up drunk and tried to give you a gift before you got married. It's like, what are you doing? I've got to get married first. This really can't wait until the after party. So if I was in your shoes, I would just ignore her completely. She is clearly looking for attention and projecting all of her negative feelings on you, and you do not deserve her entitled attitude in the slightest. An entitled Karen screams at me after I give a homeless guy some money, claiming that I was helping him purchase his illegal substances, and as repayment to society, I was now required to pay for her gas at her pump. So I decided to get some petty revenge in a way that this Karen would never forget. Here's what happened. So we have our fair share of homeless people in my town, and it's a lot of the usual that you might expect, like the ones at the end of exit ramps with signs or at the lights of highways. Usually I don't give anything because realistically, usually you don't have anything to give in the first place. But yesterday I had a decent day and I actually found myself with a couple of bucks on hand. I see one particular man at a freeway light often, and I know some of his story. He does use any money collected to purchase food, as well as something to drink but not alcohol, and will accept items graciously, not just cash. So I pull up to the light, wave him over, and hand him the $4 that I had. He thanks me and happens to walk across the intersection to the same gas station that I was heading to in the first place. I go in to get some gas, and he grabs some hot food and a cheap fountain drink. So you might be wondering, all was good, right? Well, no, of course it wasn't. In comes the entitled Karen of the story. She had the typical look and everything. Big sunglasses, the haircut, yoga pants, I mean, you name it. She immediately storms over to the register and demands a manager. I'm only mildly paying attention because I just need to get gas. Well, the manager comes forward, and this woman points that ugly orange and red long nail at me and starts to raise her voice. She says, "I need police here right now. That woman gave that addict some money outside of your establishment," as well as a slew of other really random and ever-growing nonsense. At this point, the three other customers, namely me, the man I helped out, and now a very interested customer, are all staring at this Karen. The manager looks so confused, so I chimed in. I said, "Regardless, that isn't her business. business. I gave the guy a few bucks across the street, and he's buying food with it. The manager's okay with this, but the Karen is not happy. She starts screaming that obviously the station is a front for illegal activity, as well as illegal substances, as well as all this other crazy stuff. At this point, I've completely lost interest. The man buys his food and walks out, and I get to the register and I ask for gas. Now, you would think that the Karen would be done at this point, but unfortunately, of course she wasn't. She demands that if I'm going to pay for his substances, then I need to buy her gas. She tells the cashier and manager to put I think about $40 on the pump where she was at, and it was all going to be on my dime, and then she storms out. And at this point, we all just blink. I chuckled a bit and I told them how much gas I needed, and I was just going to ignore it, but I'm feeling petty, so I put $1 on her pump. Her screaming when the pump stopped at $1 was beautiful, so I got my gas and I left. All the while, she was storming back into the station, and that was honestly the best dollar I've ever wasted in my life. That is seriously the funniest form of petty revenge I've ever heard in a while. Like, first of all, what was this lady's problem? She was seriously freaking out because you gave somebody else money? Like, is she being serious right now? It is not that big of a deal. Like, what you do with what, $4 is your business and yours alone. And it's also really disturbing that she would automatically be like, oh yeah, that guy's going after illegal substances. When it's like, lady, that guy's homeless. He's getting food. She could literally see exactly what he was using the money for. And it's honestly so disappointing that there are actually people like this who see a homeless person and only think that they're doing illegal substances of some kind. And sure, that stereotype in a lot of cases is true, but there are some people who are just down on their luck. And for this guy, it really does seem like the case. So honestly, good for the original poster for putting this Karen in her place, because I really think that's a lesson she's not going to forget anytime soon. An entitled landlord tries to trick me into renting their apartment, as they failed to disclose that I would be next to a neighbor who was an absolute nightmare to deal with. And I've honestly never been more offended or bullied by somebody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so after apartment searching for several months, I finally found a place that looked reasonable. Currently, I've been living with my elderly dad, caretaking for him as he has some mobility issues and some health issues. I've been doing so for the last year. Prior to that, I was living in an apartment and basically put my life on hold to help him out. My mom passed away several years ago unexpectedly, and since then, I've tried to help my dad, even though at times he can have some narcissism, which has added to the difficulty of me caretaking and living with him. It's not all the times, but it is sometimes. I had been apartment searching for months, and I had very little luck. It seems like everything was either extremely expensive in my area, or too far distance-wise, or it just didn't look great. Or on the flip side, no one got back to me with my original inquiry. Finally, I found a place that was only 20 minutes away from my dad, in a town that I do like, right on the beach for a reasonable price. It was a studio apartment, so it was relatively small in size, but it definitely seemed doable. When I went to go see it the first time, the current tenant was the one to show it to me. She seemed really nice and said it's a good apartment and that she's going to be living with her mom for the time being, and then in the summer she's going to be moving to Arizona. When we were walking out, I saw that there were papers on the neighbor's door, and she mentioned they are being evicted. I didn't feel comfortable asking follow-up questions or prying, which in retrospect I definitely should have. So I decided that I wanted to take the apartment. I speak to the landlord who lives in a different state via phone call, and she tells me about the paperwork application I will need to fill out and that everything looks good. Her sister works in the office downstairs and handles a lot of paperwork, so I met her as well. I had asked her for a copy of the lease just so I could look it over prior to putting down a deposit. I do so, and I notice one of the things on the deposit was very unusual. It mentioned repairs in the building, but that the tenant would be responsible for $50 of the repair, even if it were part of the building and not something that they caused. I was very confused by the wording, and I asked her to elaborate on that, and she did so. I then told her I'm very interested and I would like to take a final walkthrough and bring my non-refundable holding deposit at that point if everything seemingly looks good, which I ended up doing so at that point. Everything about the apartment looked good and reasonable. I put down the holding deposit, which is the amount of the rent, and she gives me a copy of the lease that I then have to get notarized, which I found it to be unusual, and I also found it unusual that the holding deposit and the security deposit she wanted in cash only. She said rent going forward could be in check form, but that she wanted those in cash. Well, fast forward, and I go back today, and I bring the lease signed and notarized, as well as the security deposit in cash. I meet with the sister of the landlord in the office, and after she signs the documents and takes the money from me, we start having a conversation, and she's telling me about the area and the building in general. She then gets on about the layout of the neighbors, detailing exactly where everybody lives. I tell her that it's okay if she doesn't feel comfortable sharing, but I'm just curious about the person being evicted. Well, she then goes on a 20-minute conversation about how that woman has been a complete nightmare, how she was diagnosed with Huntington's disease, and apparently that's why the current tenant is moving out, and other tenants have had a huge noise issue with her. She blasts music constantly. She's rude when they asked her to turn it down. She vacuums for 3 hours, banging her vacuum into the wall, especially when people have work meetings when they work from home. And after hearing this, I was extremely concerned. I tell her thank you for her time, and then I go to my car and I call my dad. I burst into tears because I felt so uncomfortable with finding out this information, especially after signing the lease and putting down the money. He tells me that I should go back in and ask her why that wasn't disclosed to me prior to signing anything. So I go back in and I say just that to the sister, and she says to me in response that the current tenant did tell me, but I tell her that I knew of the person being evicted, but I had no clue as to why, and I'm very uncomfortable with this information. She then calls her sister the landlord and puts me on the phone with her. The landlord then basically verbally attacks me, turning things around on me, saying that I have been wishy-washy the entire time, that I'm going to regret this, that it's a cute apartment and by the ocean, and that she has never in her 52 years of doing this had someone be so wishy-washy. Now, I feel very uncomfortable because I have a passive personality, which she probably knew she could take advantage of, and I asked her how I've been wishy-washy at all. She said because I wanted clarification of the lease and to see the apartment for a second time. Now, when she said that, I still felt incredibly uncomfortable with this scenario. She was still trying to push me to keep and take the apartment at that point, even though I tried to explain to her that I have had a really bad neighbor scenario before, and it was an absolute nightmare for me living in that. She tried to tell me that this would not be an issue, in that they were already evicting the person, and the person might even be out by the time I move in next month. I told her that I knew sometimes evictions could take months or even up to a year, and I can't be in that kind of scenario. Well, long story short, I pretty much burst into tears after getting off the phone with her, even though I was still in front of her sister. I left, I told my dad what happened, and he told me to give him her number so he could give her a call back and speak about the deposit and getting it back. He did so, and she lied, saying that I knew about this when I first saw the apartment, which is obviously untrue. It sounds like if she's going to have to be able to have a backup tenant and rent it right away, that she will get the money back, otherwise it might be an issue. I'm extremely on edge, and I'm very uncomfortable about this entire thing. I've never been spoken to like that in my life, and I'm also extremely disappointed about not getting this apartment after searching for months. I felt like going into it though might be the wrong decision if I pretty much have confirmation that this neighbor has been a living nightmare for literally anybody who lives there. On the other hand, I obviously understand why the current tenant is trying to break her lease, because they wouldn't even tell me the details of why the eviction is happening in the first place. It's just very upsetting that I was about to move into a scenario that seems like it was a very difficult living situation for reasons outside of the apartment. I mean, I really felt like I was being bullied, and I was so shocked because this landlord's attitude just changed 180 from the previous time I'd spoken to her, and it's honestly just so jarring. And it's also one of those situations where I wonder if it was too good to be true. And you know what? Maybe it is. This place was right on the beach, and it just seemed like a really low price, and obviously and unfortunately, I now know that there was clearly a catch. Yeah, that landlord tried to muscle you into that apartment, and that is honestly so crazy to me. Like, I've learned in customer service or in other situations in life, whenever somebody gets really pushy and aggressive and like angry with you, especially over a decision that involves money or something like that, usually it means that they're trying to like get something out of you, or they have some kind of angle that they're trying to play against you. And the entitled Karen landlord of this story absolutely fits the bill. I mean, you are definitely not the first person to see that eviction notice on your neighbor's door and then think to yourself, okay, maybe this is not for me. Because that landlord turned on a dime and was like, no, this is your fault. You've been wishy-washy. And it's like, what do you even mean by wishy-washy? That literally doesn't even make any sense. And also, why would I not want to be very careful about the place I live in? Because this is a perfect example of what could happen. They advertise this low price, it's right next to the beach, so they're clearly trying to like pull people in to make sure they get with this property. But in reality, it's all a ruse. It's all a disguise so that they can get this apartment under somebody so that they can start making money off of it despite this awful neighbor. And the original poster had it right as well. This eviction process sometimes goes on forever. Like, that's never an easy process, and there's a good chance she might just stay there and be like, nope, I'm not gonna leave. Then the police are involved and all this other garbage is just gonna add up. Like, seriously, that sounds like an absolute abysmal nightmare. So seriously, good for you for not moving into that place, as well as having your dad to back you up when you felt overwhelmed, because having someone like that to help you out in this scenario clearly made all the difference in the world. An entitled Karen screams at me and gets physical with me after I refused to allow her son to take my phone and use it as entertainment. But I decided I was not going to take her attitude for a second, as I talked back by insulting her and telling her that she's a terrible mother. But now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for the way that I reacted, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I'm a 27-year-old Dutch woman who is currently 5 months pregnant and has a wife. My wife and I were at an airport waiting for our flight, which was in a few hours, when my wife goes to get something to eat. I asked her if she could get me something and then she went her way. As I was sitting there, I was reading on my phone when this kid comes up to me and says, "Ma'am, could I play on your phone?" I say to them, "I'm sorry, but no." The kid says okay and walks to his mother's seat about 20 feet away from me, and he tells her what I said. And this is the entitled Karen of this story. This Karen then gets up and walks over to me and says to me, "You need to let my son play on your phone." I then said to her, "Why should I? It's my property, not yours or his." The Karen makes a frustrated noise and then walks back to her seat. My wife comes back with some fruit for me, and I grab some and I started eating. After a few hours, our plane was here and we got on, and guess what? The entitled Karen was sitting literally right beside me. She says to her son, "Don't mess with the stuff." Now I hear this, but I shrug it off, as she is just being a Karen. Then she tells her son a few other things, but I couldn't hear as I was now listening to some music. The kid sits to my right and the Karen to the right of him. Once we take off, the kid asked his mom something and she gives him a short and quiet response. The kid starts rubbing his arms against my arm and even tried to poke my stomach a bit, but I looked at him and he stopped. He then looked at me and said, "How did you get pregnant if you're married to a girl?" And when he said that, I just put my headphones back in and ignored him, and I continued reading on my phone. The kid then continues bugging me, and eventually he picks his nose and tries to wipe it on me, but I grabbed his hand and I rub it on his arm instead, and he tells his mom. The kid and his mom swap seats, and the Karen grabs my hair and yanks at it. Then I pull out an earbud, put my phone down, and grab her wrist as hard as I can. She yells at me, "Why did you touch my baby?" I respond by squeezing her wrist so that she would let go of my hair. I say to her, "He was about to put his snot on my arm." The Karen released my hair and tried to smack my stomach, but my wife chimed in and said, "Hey, look, just get your kid to stop messing with my wife." The Karen then called her a racist name, and then she looks at me and calls me another name aimed at lesbians, and I respond by saying that you're a piece of garbage and a terrible parent. After that, she asked to move seats with another guy, but in the end, me and my wife had no more problems on our trip. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for yelling at this Karen when she was being obnoxious? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think her demeanor and the way she was acting was completely out of line. Like, she was allowing her kid to basically bother you nonstop, as well as try to wipe his snot all over your arm. Like, seriously, that is unbelievably disgusting. There is no good excuse for that, and honestly, you hit the nail on the head. This lady is a terrible parent. It's also crazy to me at how entitled this lady truly was. Like, she was really trying to get you to give up your property to her son, as if you're supposed to just give it away without any kind of problem. Like, you don't know these people at all. They are literally the definition of strangers, and there's no way if I was in your shoes, I would ever give up my phone. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this entitled Karen was being a bully, and she had no right to talk to you or your wife like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend is constantly getting direction and instruction from his mother, as she literally controls every aspect of his life and refuses to not be involved in our relationship. But at this point, I'm seriously considering breaking up with him, and I'm at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years. I'm 23 years old and he is 25. He is my best friend and I truly love him. I know that by even asking this, I probably already know my answer, but I am having a tough time accepting it. Should I end my relationship or continue it and allow my boyfriend to move to my state with his family? He is planning on moving here in April with his family, and I don't have much time left to make a decision. I am feeling feeling lots of doubt despite my feelings for him. I am concerned about his mom. I have so many long stories I could share, but I really will try to keep it short. I have noticed so many red flags, but because we are in such a long-distance relationship, I can forgive them once I get home and I'm away from her. Since I only visit for a week about every other month, I feel I do not even know half of what is to come in the future if I marry into this family. For the short periods of time that I have been in person with his family, I always have several experiences that cause me to feel doubt, but everything else about him is so amazing to me that I can forgive them once I am home. Soon, that will not be the case if they move to my state. He originally was going to move here on his own, but without speaking to me about it, planned for his family to come as well. This did not initially upset me so much at first, because I assumed his family would probably follow eventually. He is an only child, and up until now, I had not thought a lot about what it would be like for them to be here too. I only imagined him. I get along with his mom because I'm a meek person. She is extremely hot-headed, she's pushy and overbearing. I do not enjoy being around her, and she makes me feel exhausted. There have been many things she has said to me that have been left-handed comments, but I've ignored them and always remained respectful to her. I don't like confrontation, but she's one of those people where if you have a problem with her, you need to say it to her face. We are really close right now, but I genuinely believe that if I had just a little more of a backbone, she would completely hate me. I know that makes me sound so insincere, but I just want to build a good relationship with her. She cannot take no for an answer, and I am so bad at saying no. I will say no to her a million times, and she just doesn't give up. She will just do what she wants. Now, my boyfriend and his mom are extremely close. His biological father left when he was around 3 years old, and his mom remarried when he was 5. His stepdad is like a real father to him, and they get along very well. His dad and mom have a healthy relationship, and that makes me really happy. His mom has pulled me aside multiple times throughout my visits, just to tell me that her son is number one in her life, even before her husband. She pulls me aside very often to make comments just like that. She also often texts me about how sweet and amazing he is. He lives with his parents right now because he wants to save up to move in with me. He has lived apart from his parents for 2 years in the past in an apartment that was less than 5 minutes away from their house. When he moved out, his mom cried uncontrollably for days. His mom and dad both constantly dote on him. When I'm visiting, they knock on his door several times a day just to talk to us, and when I'm not there, they enter his room constantly without knocking, even when we're on a phone call together. It is more his mom than his dad, but it can be his dad sometimes. His mom will enter his room and sit on his bed and just listen to our conversation. She will complain that he does not spend time with her or eat with her anymore, and since I'm not there in person, he and his mom will go out one-on-one together several times a week for meals. Now, this does not bother me because I also like spending time with my mom, but for her to whine about him not doing it enough is really concerning to me because to me, it is more than enough already. Additionally to this, she is constantly texting and calling him while we are together. I only get to see him in person every so often, so it makes me sad when she calls him and they talk on the phone for a while when they live together and get to see each other all the time. He tells her everything that we do each day, all of our plans, and sends pictures of our food, and their messages are filled with heart emojis. This did not bother me initially because I'm glad he has a good relationship with her, but since then, so much has built up and caused me more concern for how involved she is in his life. I do not know how much he texts her when I'm not there, but she calls him every day that he drives to work. She has also convinced him that he is 6 feet tall and repeatedly comments on how tall he is. Now, I don't want to burst his bubble because he genuinely believes that he is that tall, but he is probably more like 5'9" at most. Now, I don't care how tall he is perfect to me, but it's strange how his mom romanticizes his height. Every time I visit, at least once, she rubs his arms and goes on and on about how amazing and big his muscles are. She snuggles up against him when we are on the couch, and they always hug when we leave them to go to bed. And hey, maybe this is normal. At least my parents are not very physically affectionate at all. I will say though that he is independent. He works hard and can cook, he can clean and do errands for himself. His mom does currently do his laundry and help with the cleaning and cooking sometimes, but he does help out, and I know he is capable of doing these chores on his own if she wasn't around. For the majority of our relationship, every time I would visit, we would eat just about every dinner with his parents, take his mom out for lunch at least once, and spend the evening watching movies or just talking to them. If we did something alone, when we got back home, he would knock on their bedroom door and go into their room to talk to them for at least 30 minutes. minutes. Now, I know that doesn't sound long, but that time adds up when you only see your partner for a bit every few months. When he visits me, we sometimes do not eat a single meal with my family at all because I want to spend as much alone time with him as possible. If I said anything about not wanting to spend so much time with his parents, he would get sad and tell me they miss me as much as he misses me when I am gone. We have gone on several trips out of town with his family where we would spend every waking moment with them. For our 3-year anniversary, we went on a 7-day cruise with his parents, and after about 2 days, I asked him if we could just do one thing together alone without them. He reluctantly agreed, and we planned to go get a late-night snack. When the time finally came, his mom asked if she could join us because her husband went to gamble that night. My boyfriend said yes, and I was visibly annoyed, which then caused him to be annoyed with me. He told me that my behavior was unbelievable, and after we ate with his mom and parted ways with her, I expressed my annoyance to my boyfriend. He then threw a fit and stormed off to sit somewhere on his own, and for the rest of the trip, he gave me the cold shoulder. And let me tell you something, I could not wait to get off that boat and just go home. We had a serious talk after this, and since then, we spent a good bit less time with them during my visits. Now, if I am there for a week, we usually only spend about 2 to 3 dinners with them, but still spend a lot of time in their room or his room talking. Since we have decreased the time we spend with them, his mother has increasingly gotten more passive-aggressive towards me. She makes left-handed comments about my appearance and qualities, and then she tells me that you can get away with saying anything if you say it with a smile. They are too minor to truly address or complain about, but it makes me feel insecure. My greatest concern, though, came during my most recent visit. It truly gave me a reality check. We went out to dinner with his parents, and his mom tells me that we need to have a serious talk. I assume it's about them moving to my state, and they want to make sure that I'm truly serious about being with their son, but instead, they brought up my older brother. My older brother, for reference, has extreme social anxiety and sometimes does not properly greet my boyfriend when he visits. I am not close with my older brother, and I don't spend much time with him, but I warned my brother about him before meeting him because my brother is rude to everyone and has acted the same to all of my past boyfriends. My boyfriend has taken it extremely personally and brings it up quite a bit. I have spoken to my brother in private about his behavior and hear out my boyfriend when he complains because I agree with him. My brother can be very rude. If I explain that it's because he is shy, my boyfriend says I'm giving my brother excuses and that my parents did not raise him right. Well, at the dinner, his parents say that they are extremely concerned with my brother and how he treats my boyfriend. Now, I am a little shocked because I did not see it as a big deal since my brother is not a big part of my life at all. This conversation went on for a long time where they bashed my brother and the way my parents raised him. They said if my brother was rude when they were around, they would address it immediately and ask what his problem is. I think I must have been visibly scared because his dad began emphasizing that they did not hate my brother, but they were just concerned as parents. My brother really has not done anything that bad to my boyfriend other than not greet him when he visits. They acted like my brother was going to be the biggest bully and they had to stand up for their son. I just feel like he is too old to have his parents so defensive as well as being worried about something like this. I also feel like this will just start a huge fight between our families if they make a big scene about my brother. His mom tells me that I need to stand up for my boyfriend no matter what because at the end of the day, he is all I will have left when my parents pass away. I feel slightly wrong because I have spoken to my brother about his behavior a few times, and so has my mom and other family members. I may not have stood up to him directly at the moment, but I am not comfortable around him, so it is hard. Once the conversation about that ended, his mom turned to me and began asking about my future plans. She does not look at my boyfriend at all and only looks at me. She asked about when we want to move out together, as well as when we want to get married and have kids. I tell her I'm not sure if I want kids, and I want to be financially stable, have a solid job, and get married before doing that. She tells me that I should want to have kids now and live day by day instead of worrying about having an established plan. She tells me that my boyfriend's biological father did not want kids until they were established adults either, but she wanted kids so she got pregnant. I thought this was crazy because they were married in their early 20s. He expressed he did not want kids yet, and she still purposefully got pregnant. She often acts like a victim because my boyfriend's biological father left her, and my boyfriend constantly tells me he feels so sorry for her and that she is the strongest woman that he knows. She proceeds to tell me that she wants to be a young grandma and wants me to have children as soon as possible. She says that she does not want to look old in her pictures with her their grandkids. She made the whole process of us having kids seem like it was all about her. Months ago, I had told her I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and if I have kids, she told me that I should want to work and provide for myself, and that I should not rely on anyone else. My boyfriend told me that I should not worry about being a stay-at-home mom because I can work while his mom takes care of our kids. But I only want kids if my partner and I can afford for me to be a stay-at-home mom. I know that is a lot to ask for this economy, but if that can't happen, then I simply will not plan on having kids. I am happy to work and I love my job, but if I do have kids, I would like to care for them at home until they're older. My boyfriend's mom is very much against this idea. I think maybe because she wants to be the primary caregiver, but I don't really want such a hot-headed, short-tempered person raising my kids. And I know that sounds awful. I don't even have kids yet, and I'm still worried about that. His mother did multiple things on this trip that made me very uncomfortable. I won't get into all of them, but one thing was that she took something that I had just bought and did something with it that I had asked her not to do. I did not express discomfort to her, but I spoke to my boyfriend in private afterwards. It truly was not too big of a deal, but I wanted him to know that I didn't like it. Well, he completely shut down and got defensive. We barely spoke for the rest of the day and went to bed mad at each other. My boyfriend and I have also been planning on going to a concert together once he moves here, and his mom has already invited herself to that as well. Since I have gotten home from my last trip, I have taken this concern very seriously and sat down and told my boyfriend how I truly feel about his mom. When it came to the first conversation, he did not understand why I was upset. Eventually, he saw how serious I was, and I was brutally honest with him, and I told him that I was considering pulling out of the relationship if things did not get better. He promised that he would do so much better and apologize for everything. He assured me that he would set boundaries and do anything he had to. I told him I could not know for sure if that was possible before they move here, so I was still doubtful about continuing the relationship. His solution was that he would move to my state first without them. He brings up this idea to his mom while they are out having dinner one-on-one, as they do quite often, and she says it has always been the three of them, meaning her, her husband, and her son, so that she would have to follow within 2 to 3 months after he moved if he moved here alone. She also asked him, well, what if I want to move there? As in, she would move there with or without his permission as soon as she wanted. The conversation did not go anywhere else past this point. He didn't tell his mom, no, we will need more time than 2 to 3 months, or say it cannot just be the three of us forever once I'm an adult and start my own family. I mean, he said nothing of the sort. He did not even attempt to set a single boundary. He saw her get teary-eyed and could not do it. I don't want to separate him from his mother or force a wedge between their relationship, but I don't think she can let go, and he is too nice to set any kind of boundaries. And this conversation happened hours after I told him I would pull out of the relationship if he could not prove to me that he could set boundaries. I believe she will resent me for stealing her son from her, or my boyfriend and I will constantly be fighting about his mother. My heart tells me that dinner is all I need to know about his ability to make boundaries. My biggest concern is that he cannot take any criticism about his mom. She has no boundaries, invites herself to everything, has an opinion about many personal things within our relationship, and it honestly really bothers me. I wish I could share every specific story about how she has acted, as well as the things that she has said, but it would literally be a book, and that is considering that I only see her maybe 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, and pretty soon it will be forever. Is it worth having the man of my dreams that comes in a package deal with his mother? I truly believe that he will not be able to set the boundaries that I am comfortable with. I am so happy with him, but I know I cannot be happy with her. I guess I already know my answer, but I am so heartbroken and I feel like a huge jerk. I wish I could accept and love his mother, but I am not sure that I can. Their relationship is far too close, and she is unpleasant to be around. I don't want my future to be controlled by her. He says he can set boundaries and he is willing to do anything to stay with me, but their conversation about him moving on his own proved to me otherwise. Plus, it was only a month ago when he would not speak to me for an entire day, all because I expressed discomfort to him in private about something that his mother did. He is planning to move here at the end of April, so I do not have much time to make my decision and put a halt to it. Maybe she does not sound that bad, but I'm preparing for the worst already because I truly do not know what it will be like when we are finally no longer long distance. I do not want to regret having them uproot their lives and move across the country only to end up wishing they were not here. I truly do not think I could ever find another boyfriend as loyal and thoughtful as well as selfless as my boyfriend. He is my best friend and my whole life, but his relationship to his mother has caused me me to feel like this may not be right. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is insane. I seriously want to say that quite literally. This is an insane scenario, and I can't believe you're still sticking around. Okay, let me just say first and foremost, if I was in your shoes, I would have backed out of this relationship after the cruise. I would have known right then and there that he does not care about my best interest, and he is going to be married to his mom for the rest of his life. Like, for starters, his mom is a narcissist, and she really acts like she's in a relationship with her son. And not only is that super creepy, but it's also setting a weird precedent that your boyfriend absolutely needs to address. Like, that is so weird to me, it's not even funny. So the moment he was like, oh my gosh, you're just being ridiculous, and got all defensive when you said, hey, what your mom did was really weird and I don't like it, that would have been like the biggest red flag on planet Earth. Not to mention the myriad of other things you said about this woman. I guarantee you, in my opinion, the second you marry that man and the second she is all around your life, she will literally ruin your marriage. Because I know in my mind, if I was in your shoes and I got married to that guy, I would also be getting married to his mom. Because wherever your spineless boyfriend goes, your mom is also going to be there to tell him exactly what to do. Like, this guy has no backbone in the slightest too, by the way. And I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm just trying to tell you exactly how I see this. Because this honestly looks really bad. So truly, you can do whatever you want with your life, but in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would have broken up with this guy a long time ago. There's no way I would want to stay with someone like that, especially if they hold their mother above their spouse in their relationship. Because that's exactly what this guy's doing. His mother is on a completely different pedestal that you deserve to be placed on, and that is honestly not fair for you in the slightest. Today, I filed a restraining order against my snowplow guy who was contracted to plow my driveway, but never did it for the entire time we lived in our home. And after confronting him and telling him we're going to cancel our service, this guy loses his mind, even going as far as making threats against me and my family if we do decide to cancel his contract. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm going to say that today was one of the most insane days I've ever had in my life. It involved me contacting the sheriff and picking up the paperwork for a restraining order and involving my attorney, all because our snowplow guy decided to threaten me and my family. So with that intro out of the way, let's get started. Late last year, our house was ruined from water intrusion in the house. It's been a massive insurance claim, and as part of that, the insurance company has been paying for us to rent a house nearby. We moved into this place recently, and it's been great so far. One of the benefits was that as part of the lease, we would have someone who would come by to snowplow the driveway, which was really great. And the weekend we moved in there was a massive snowstorm. There were 60-mile-an-hour winds, and the driveway at our new place was snowed in. Well, the plow guys never showed up, so I basically shrugged it off, got my snowblower that we brought from our previous place, and I cleared the driveway. I messaged the owner and asked if she could share the plow guy's number so I could message him. She did, and surprise, surprise, it was actually someone we knew. This guy has a bit of a reputation, but we never had any problem with him. This is a small town after all. So I sent him a message and said that we were living at this place and that I had my trailer parked in the driveway and would need him to keep the snow banks pushed out so that I can turn it around properly. I also offered to help keep the parts he couldn't reach clear with my snowblower, since plowing around the trailer can be a pain. And by the way, this is a super massive driveway and parking area. I have 4 trailers parked, and there is still tons of room. They are also parked in places out of the way of his push paths. For what it's worth, if he had said to me, sorry, I can't plow your driveway as it is, I would have been like, no problem at all, I will take care of it. I had no expectations of him at all and was fully prepared to do it myself. But he said all was good and told me not to bother snow plowing, as he would be by with one of his machines to clear things up. Well, not long after, another store comes by, and 1 to 2 feet of snow have landed on our driveway, and my wife can't get out. So I got up, started the snowblower, and cleared the driveway. By the way, this is not a quick process. It takes me about an hour to do the whole thing. His employer with a loader shows up at about 10 o'clock p.m. that night, sees the driveway looks clear, and drives on by to his next stop, which is a house close by. I didn't make a fuss about it because I get it. Maybe we are the last on his route, but I can't just sit inside all day and wait. I just thought to myself, well, maybe this guy just got a freebie on me, which basically means he didn't have to do his work. A short bit of time went by and I woke up to go snowmobiling. We had a fresh 18 inches of snow on the driveway and the plow guy hadn't come along, and I had to leave at 8:15 to meet my friend at the trailhead. My trailer weighs 7,000 pounds. It's 28 feet long, it's enclosed, and it holds 5 sleds. odds. My big truck with brand new top-of-the-line snow tires can't pull that thing up a hill in 18 inches of fresh snow. So I got my snowblower out, cleared the path from the trailer to the main road, and off I went. I got back at 4:00 p.m. and they still weren't there. So I cleared the rest of the driveway so I could turn around and park the trailer. And once again, their guy drove by at 10:30 p.m. at night. Now, here's where all the crazy really starts to pop off. The owner texted me today and said to me, "Do not snowblow your driveway anymore. You are taking money out of my pocket." To which I responded that I have no interest in snowblowing my driveway and would prefer for them to do it, but that I need them to come early in the morning because we work and we need to get out of the driveway and I can't get my trailer out without clearing a path. Trust me, I've tried this several times. He then called me immediately after that and everything really popped off. The phone call went something like this. This guy said to me, "You better stop what you're doing because we are contracted to plow that house and you are causing me to lose money every time you do it. You need to learn how to just deal with it when it snows." I told him I was dealing with it. If I can't get my car out of the driveway, I'm gonna clear it. I don't have time to hope that they show up. Now, during the call, he called me an awful name and said I need to learn how to drive like a man, that I should go park my trailer in town the day before, and that I was not allowed to plow my own driveway. He then told me how my house was the lowest on his priority list, but he still felt entitled to the money for the plow fees. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently his contract is a base monthly rate and a very large payment for every extra plow when the snow is above 6 inches. Our insurance pays the homeowner directly, so we aren't really aware of this. But anyways, the call got heated. He was yelling at me nonstop that I was screwing him over and how I'm apparently a jerk and I'm not allowed to clear my own driveway. At this point, I basically said that if it's such a problem, perhaps I'll just call the owners and suggest they cancel the contract. I am the one paying for it after all. Now, I do have a budget with insurance, and this is a line item. So honestly, why would I want someone plowing my driveway who's gonna treat me like garbage? Well, from here on out, it got way worse. He started making threats about how if I get the contract canceled, he's gonna come down there and deal with me, and lots of other things not worth saying corresponding to threats against myself and my family. And at that point, I ended the call. Then I immediately called the local police department. I filed a report, a case was opened, and I was referred to the sheriff's office. I also called the owners who were applauded by what had happened. They immediately sent him a note stating that he is no longer allowed to come by the property and they canceled his service. To add to this, it's not the first time he's done something like it. The sheriff's deputy is very familiar with him, as are many people in town. We also have security cameras all over the property, and we will be following up with the authorities. So honestly, with all things considered, I have definitely had a very interesting day. Wow, imagine being so entitled and so out of touch that you threaten your customers with violence, all because they said, "Hey, you're doing a bad job and I don't want your service anymore." Like, that's an entirely different level of crazy that I just didn't think was possible. Like, literally, all they have to do is show up early and plow his driveway and this all would have been solved. But they kept skating by and just being lazy about it, so it left the original poster on the hook to plow it himself. And it's so funny to me that this guy was like, "Oh, you better not plow your driveway ever again. I'm officially banning you from plowing your driveway." But it's like, buddy, what are you talking about? You can't ban me from my own driveway. That's just not gonna happen. So truly, I think the original poster went about this the right way. They got the authorities involved and they definitely did this exactly the way I would have done it. Because this snowplow guy was completely out of line and his behavior absolutely deserved to be punished. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister-in-law is stealing from me and using her baby as an excuse. And after dealing with this for so long, I decided along with my wife that we would be kicking them out. Here's what happened. Okay, so I first want to start off by saying that all names in this story are fake. Anyways, my sister-in-law Jessica and her husband and my brother Liam are staying with me and my wife due to foundation trouble at their home. And simply put, she's been an absolute nightmare when it comes to taking things that aren't hers and brushing them off because she needs them due to her baby, who is my nephew by the name of Liam Jr. Now, there are lots of moments like this, but here are some of the worst ones, but trust me, this is a very condensed list. For starters, she took my expensive hair products that was made specifically for thick hair because, and I quote, "Liam Jr. can't handle strong scents, and yours are just gentler on his nose." I mean, she used the entire 16-ounce bottle of conditioner in 3 days. And mind you, Liam Jr. Jr. is only 3 months old. I also caught her trying to take the food I delivered for everybody into her room after it was delivered. I ordered almost 6 full meals to dish out for the entire house, and she was just holding this large paper bag in her room. She told me she was just sorting through it to find her food, but she was sitting down with chopsticks and the door was closed, so I called BS. She has also taken all of my snacks. My pantry has a shelf labeled specifically for me due to a mild food allergy that has all the snacks that I bought. I keep seeing her walking back and forth past my room with my snacks. If I or my wife try to confront her, she cries that she's breastfeeding and she needs the energy. Then she'll get my brother to chew me out. For the record, we do have a communal snack bin, but she won't even touch those snacks in there. She also took my gift card stash from my shelf in the kitchen and spent nearly $75 on random BS because she claimed she wanted to make the room more comfortable for Liam Jr. But I use those gift cards when I go shopping or as presents for sudden events. And she knows this, but she still took 6 to 8 different gift cards out with her. It has honestly been nonstop for the past 3 weeks, and I'm just so completely done with her. She's taken my hair ties, my shirts from the laundry, my sleeping bonnets, and my lipstick. She even took a bottle of my apple cider gummies, which I know she doesn't like because she's tried them before. I feel like she's doing it just to spite me or to assert herself, but I'm honestly considering kicking her out because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. They explain that they have a lot of sympathy for their family and their circumstance, but after sharing this story on the internet and getting responses from people as well as self-reflecting, they eventually realized that they need to go. Here's what happened next. Okay, so we had the talk with them about an hour ago and it went bad really fast. My brother and Jessica were screaming and Liam Jr. was crying because of all the noise, and somehow that was still my fault. They yelled for a good 40 minutes about how they had nowhere else to go and that they won't be able to stay together if I kick them out. It was hard for me, but my wife helped me with my stress. This argument was so bad because Jessica went on so many rants. She said to me, "If you kick us out, you'll never see me or my son ever again," while also saying that we would never know how stressed out she is, all because we can't have children. And she said this and many other things, along with a healthy dose of cursing. I told them that my wife and I's decision was final, and Jessica locked herself in her room with Liam Jr. My brother tried to apologize, saying that he was just stressed out from work, as well as his new baby, and that Jessica was putting pressure on him, but my wife cut him off and told him to imagine how stressed out I've been when my things went missing. He just kind of slumped in his seat, then went back and joined Jessica in the room after I denied his pleas to stay again. I heard them arguing for a bit, but only for about 15 minutes. I got a text message from Jessica's mother asking what was happening, but it wasn't hostile, so I didn't think that she had the full story. I'm debating telling her since she is technically not involved yet. I've gotten 3 or 4 similar messages from numbers I don't recognize, so I think Jessica may have told people my number or posted something online. Fast forward to today, and I had Jessica and Liam waking me and my wife up by clambering around about 20 minutes ago. They didn't say much while they were packing up their stuff, but Jessica did turn to me and say, "I hope you're happy now. Don't expect to see Liam Jr. anytime soon." And it seemed like she was going to start some kind of weird rant, but my brother just cut her off and told her to go wait in the car. He asked me if he and his family could stay if he paid back the amount of items that Jessica took, but I just flat out said no. He shook his head in a disapproving way and made a few more trips for their bags. And then that was it. They were out, and I'm surprised they left so early and so willingly, but I didn't feel good when they left. I felt awful. My stomach was in knots and my chest was burning. I should feel happy, but I don't. All I can do is worry. I just feel completely useless. I was trying to help, and now I might not see my nephew ever again. I went out of my way, and now it feels like I'm being punished. I'm pretty sure they'll try something again, but it is not my concern anymore. My brother left his spare key in the kitchen, but I'm still gonna change my locks. Jessica texted me that Liam is going to be staying in a motel near his job all the way until they figure something else out, and that she's gonna be stuck with her mother. For reference, her mom lives about 4 hours away, and honestly, all the advice I got was completely right. I just needed to have them gone, but I wish I didn't feel so bad about it. My wife has been comforting me as best as she can, and I appreciate her so much. She's been so supportive, and I'm just lucky to have her, and I just hope that things get better sooner than later. Wow, the original poster made the right decision of getting those people out. They were very clearly taking advantage of your situation, and they were obviously unwilling to get on their own 2 feet. They were terrible house guests and like roommates, and they made your life a living nightmare. So with all things considered, I don't blame you in the slightest for kicking them out. Because if that were me, they definitely would have had to go no matter what. Am I the jerk for not telling my family that I could cook and letting them embarrass themselves in front of my in-laws? Because right now they're very angry with me, claiming that I set them up just to be petty. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Growing up as the youngest in my family, I was often treated like I was a little princess who couldn't do anything for myself, which was aided by the fact that I was a very clumsy child and some things took me a lot of practice and patience to get right. I was the butt of the joke, and family loved to tease me and crack jokes about the fact that I couldn't boil water, or how I was a disaster everywhere I went. They would always say I could never be trusted in a kitchen and would need to find a man who could cook and clean for me in the future. It was something I resented, and it did make me feel self-conscious. I would try really hard to not mess up, but somehow I always seemed to. Moving out to attend college was the best thing I ever did. I met so many great people, including my husband, and I thrived in an environment where nobody was making fun of me. One of my friends was in culinary school, and she taught me a lot of cooking skills that I could use in my day-to-day life. She was really patient and suggested that I might have something like dyspraxia. She recognized some of my difficulties as being similar to her brother's. Well, sure enough, I went to my doctor, and she referred me to specialists to help diagnose me. Now, I have a milder form, which is why it was never brought to attention enough. I just looked like I was careless or clumsy as a child. I didn't see or speak to my family a lot during this time. When I did, it was awkward. My husband, who was my then boyfriend, would come with me sometimes, and he was always so annoyed by the jokes they'd make about me. When we got married, we actually eloped while on vacation overseas with his family. It was amazing and made for a much less stressful wedding. My family and in-laws had seen each other once or twice before, but only briefly. So when my family decided they wanted to come and see me and stayed for a weekend in a hotel, we decided to host both families. And I decided right then that I was gonna cook. But we didn't announce that until my parents had started making their little jokes and crediting only my husband for the food and the cleanliness or our home. My in-laws were aware of how my family act, but even they didn't really realize how little they believed in me. My husband happily informed my family, after they had really made jerks of themselves, that I had cooked the entire meal and that we shared those responsibilities. He also said the same thing goes for the cleaning. Now, my family tried to deny it. They said, no, she can't do that. But my in-laws said I was cooking almost as long as they knew me, and I did a good job every single time. My mother-in-law mentioned my diagnosis, and my dad told her they thought I was just trying to make excuses. My family was incredibly awkward, and my in-laws left with a better understanding of my family and a nice dose of anger at them for how far they were willing to go to humiliate me in front of them. My family was also very upset with me for not explaining things better beforehand. Not the condition itself, but the fact that I do cook now and I could do it. They said I tried to humiliate them out of pettiness. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for proving my family wrong? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your family is so toxic, like seriously, that is insane to me. They're also just straight up bullies. Like these people want to try and keep you down and keep you stuffed in this very specific box that they can control. Like these people sound absolutely awful. Even now as an adult, like a full-grown adult, they still tried to mock you in front of your husband and your in-laws. And I know if I was in your shoes, that would be like the last time I would ever want them around me in my life. Like if you getting eloped without them being there is any indication that they are not welcome in your life, then I don't know what else is. But when it comes to the incident in question, honestly, I think you handled it perfectly. Those people deserve to be embarrassed for the way they were treating you, because they've been putting you down and bullying you ever since you were a child. And I can't believe they still keep that up even into your adulthood. So I think them getting a taste of their own medicine and seeing exactly how toxic they're being and how rude and absolutely obnoxious they are, honestly and hopefully is a really good wake-up call for how mean they've been. So truly, good for you for getting away from these people and finally breaking free from this weird shell that they've placed you in, because their demeanor and attitude towards you is absolutely unacceptable. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. An entitled table that I was serving refused to leave me a tip at the end of the night, claiming that our 20% gratuity that they were aware of at the beginning of the night was way too much money and that they were never gonna pay it. So me and the management team decided to call the cops, scaring this family straight, leading to them dropping the issue entirely. And I've honestly never felt better about making unpleasant unpleasant people not get their way. Here's what happened. Okay, so for the first time ever, we had to call the police on a table. We have a very strict policy, 20% gratuity added to groups of 5 or larger. My last table, a family of 5, ordered margaritas with top shelf tequilas and 5 surf and turfs plus 2 appetizers and desserts. The check ended up being about $400 and the tip was around $70 in total. The oldest woman at the table insists that they are not going to pay, that a $70 tip is ludicrous, and that she's willing to leave maybe $40. After a lot of back and forth, I explained to her that we have rules, which she agreed to when she made the reservation and was reminded to them when they arrived. She insisted that she wasn't going to pay, so my supervisor called the police. In my country, we often have trouble with tourists thinking that they can do whatever they want. They were very confident and maybe thought that we were not going to call the police or maybe planned to leave before they arrived. But thank goodness we had a huge security guard who stood in front of the exit until the cops came along. The police showed up and 7 different officers ended up arriving. And let me tell you something, the face of the family was hilarious. They literally dropped the entire issue and agreed to pay when they saw the consequences to their actions. Now, I felt no rage towards the table. I was finishing my night and I could care less if they left a tip or not, but I definitely enjoyed watching rude and unpleasant people not get their way. That really is an awesome story because you know what? People like this absolutely deserve to get put in their place. They came to that restaurant, they knew exactly what was going on, and it was clearly explained to them that yes, there's a 20% gratuity fee, so you better organize your payments right now instead of trying to work around it at the end. And I think with that in mind, it's really cool that your management had your back and they didn't let these people get away with being so stingy. Like they knew what they were getting into. They knew this was coming at the end of the night, so it's not like they could have just planned on that and been like, okay, there's a 20% fee, we gotta be careful in what we buy. So truly good for the original poster and the management team, as well as the guy working security, for making sure that these people were honest with their dealings. Because I guarantee you they would have loved nothing more than to get away with not giving you a proper tip. And that, in my opinion, would have been absolutely unacceptable. An entitled Karen and her husband freak out on me when I offer to get extra plates for their sons, as they go off on a tangent that they would never eat any of our food and that the only thing they'll ever eat is McDonald's. And I've honestly never been more confused or blown away by someone's weird attitude in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, let me start by giving just a little bit of background information. I've been a server for about 7 years now, almost 8, and this happened to me last night, and I know that you guys are gonna get a kick out of this. So last night we were extremely busy. Also, it was only me and another experienced server on the floor. The other 3 servers were just new hires. I was getting my butt kicked so hard, and so was the other experienced server. The hostess just kept seating us 2 while taking it easy on the new hires, despite being extremely busy and having to make hot tea, which at my restaurant is a huge pain in the neck. We have to take this stupid big box full of several different flavors of hot tea to the table, let them pick out what they want, and then walk all the way back and make the stupid thing. And we have to do this every time, even if they've already had one. Anyways, despite all of this, I was doing great and taking care of my people. Then I got a 5-top. It was 3 kids and their parents. I greeted them, got their drinks, and after giving them their drinks, they were ready to order. But only the parents ordered. Now, I'm a mom as well, and when I go to a restaurant, I always share with my youngest because we both eat like birds. So I asked the mom if she would like 3 extra plates for her kids in case they were going to share. And this is where things went really downhill. The dad laughed and said, "Only if you've got McDonald's in here." The mom then immediately got irritated and started on this rant. She said to me, "My boys are autistic and have sensory issues, and the only thing they can eat is McDonald's." And she just went on and on. At the end of it, I just said, "Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and get the menus out of your way then." So I take their menus and I go send in their order. Everything else goes smoothly, and I check on them after getting their food, with them saying that everything is great. I made sure to refill their drinks when needed, and I didn't even think that there was a problem. They pay their bill and then they left a 10% tip. Then, as they're leaving, they go to my manager and tell them that it was the worst service they've ever had. Luckily, where I work, we have amazing managers who usually side with us servers and will get the facts before just pulling the trigger on us. He asked her what was wrong with her service, but she simply couldn't answer that and instead huffed her way out the door with her family. My manager then came up to me later and told me what happened. I laughed and gave my side of the story, and he laughed, and I obviously had to tell my other servers what happened, and we all got a good laugh about it. Like, seriously, what am I supposed to do? Go to McDonald's for them? Was I supposed to sympathize with her about her 3 autistic kids who had to watch their parents eat first in front of them? My sister is autistic. She has Asperger's, house. And she doesn't want pity or sympathy. She just wants to be treated like a regular human being, which is exactly what I did for that table. So genuinely, did I do something wrong? Or was that table just impossible to save from the start? You didn't do anything wrong. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I mean, here you have a family of 5 people and only 2 of them are ordering food. Like, that seems like a really big red flag, and I think you made the right choice of trying to be relatable and be like, okay, let me get you like 3 extra plates. Because, you know, most kids are gonna be like, wait a second, I want some of your food now that I see it in front of me. Like, that's not unusual for you to try to be accommodating. What is unusual, though, is this weird entitled Karen going off on you, being like, oh my god, my kids only like McDonald's, as if you were somehow supposed to like read her mind or something like that. Like, if your kids seriously need to eat at McDonald's or anything like that, then you probably should have gone there, or at least get a babysitter and then go out with just the 2 of you. There's no reason to take this out on the server. They didn't do anything to you. So honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think the way these people acted was incredibly entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amIthejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled couple at my restaurant job make my life a living nightmare, constantly giving me impatient, dirty looks as if I wasn't already working myself down to the bone. And I seriously hope I never have a day like this ever again in my life. Here's what happened. So I was working at a privately owned fine dining restaurant some years back. It was a 3-story building, and even though we had food runners, all staff was required to help run food to the parties on the floors we weren't working if we were in the kitchen when it was plated. It wasn't an ideal system to begin with, but it became even less so the busier we got. Well, there was one particular Mother's Day where Murphy's Law decided to come and take a massive dump on the place. Reservations had been lost or deliberately not booked by a hostess who had since been fired. Now, in her defense, she was wrongfully terminated, but she completely screwed over us as well as the owners. Also, a nasty bug was going around, and what staff we did have was all sick as dogs, miserable and exhausted from the grueling double we pulled the day before, and the kitchen was 5 tickets deep in the weeds. Our wine rep didn't drop off 3 cases of the featured champagne, and this is stuff that we had advertised at a special price. And our only bartender chose their other job over us that day, so we were stuck making most of our own drinks on top of everything else. It was a complete disaster. So I had an 8-top that was looking to be my only saving grace during this nightmare fever dream that I was working through. We didn't do auto gratuity on holidays, and why that's the case I will never know. Things had gone well initially, but took a sudden turn into a steep dive off a cliff once we got to the halfway point. We somehow ran out of several menu items, even though we were only 4 hours into the shift, between relaying delays and out of stock food and drink items to them, and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, with trays of food up, down, sideways, and outside. They were getting increasingly impatient and upset, mostly because they couldn't see me working my butt off. I was drenched in sweat. My cuffs looked like I dunked them in coffee from helping load dishes in between running food, and this is because the dishwasher jammed and it took an hour to fix. And my makeup was reminiscent of crying because I got stood up at prom. Things were going downhill very fast, but things get significantly worse when this entitled couple sit in my section. I had a 2-top who had been absolute miserable jerks since the moment their oversized bottoms hit their seats, and their food was up as I staggered dazed into the kitchen as chef is bellowing the phrase hands. We had to substitute one of their sides, and no one had let me know so I could prepare them, so I mentally braced for the chewing out session I was about to walk into. I was 20 feet away when I saw the man at the 2-top frantically looking around. When his beady eyes spotted me, the sneer in his face confirmed that he'd been searching for me and wasn't too pleased about whatever it was he had to wait on. I could see my 8-top head swiveling as well, the disappointment on their faces when they realized it wasn't their food coming to them, despite having been there for an hour at least. Other tables in my section were all looking distressed as well, whether it be from the hunger, the heat, and the hassle that should have been a nice meal out for their moms or wives. In that moment, my mind cleared and I made a decision. I stumbled, half windmilling my arms as an attempt to maintain my balance and my plates. I initially intended to drop to one knee, valiantly managing to save the beautiful filet with a pat of compound butter melting perfectly on top, and the pan-seared salmon with an artfully drizzled sauce, with parsley carefully placed on the side, cut from the chef's personal herb garden. But what I failed to take into account was my naturally clumsy nature that I had to fight tooth and nail to overcome every single shift I work when hastily hastily crafting this plan. So what actually happened was I pitched headfirst into the water station, upending an entire tray of heavy, polished silverware and a half-filled stainless steel pitcher onto my head while sending my dishes flying down the aisle where they exploded on the metal base of table 44. Now, even my awful 2-top ended up leaving 18%, and the 8-top collectively left me over 25%. I wouldn't even try for sympathy tips if the mistakes were my fault, but this day especially was completely out of my control, so I just don't feel bad doing what I needed to do. Yeah, that is a really rough situation. It clearly sounds like one of those days where if it can go wrong, it definitely will. And it doesn't help that you have people staring at you begging for your food, almost saying to you, wow, you need to work harder. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? I'm literally running with my head cut off. So hopefully things work out in the future and you're able to have better days at that restaurant, because what you described definitely sounded incredibly awful. My retired mother lives with me rent-free and I honestly want out. But if I leave, she will literally be left with nothing. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother is retired and has no income other than a couple of stock dividends that she's had for years and Social Security from my father, who passed away about 26 years ago. She is unable to work due to medical reasons. She cannot get medical disability or retirement benefits from my understanding, as both would negate the Social Security and she would be paid even less. I am paying 100% of the rent, the gas and electric, as well as any streaming services and Spotify. I also pay for my own personal bills, which include my insurance, my car note, my cell phone, credit cards, gasoline, I mean, you name it. My mother is only responsible for the internet bill and food. She also pays for her own personal bills, but complains that she can barely afford that. She is extremely difficult to live with and very dependent. She has severe depression with some anxiety. She can't seem to find a doctor that she likes, and there have also been a lot of medication changes lately. This hasn't been the cause of any mental illness, but it has certainly made things a lot worse. She gets very angry and nasty sometimes, and there is no reasoning with her. She will get offended at anything, and it's honestly not pleasant. And no, this is not dementia or anything of the sort. I do speak to her regular doctors, and she's not committable. My mother guilt trips me constantly over anything and everything, always needs to know what I'm doing, and is always criticizing everything. I mean, nothing is ever good enough. I can't date anyone because she will tear them apart. She cannot see the good in them, only the bad, and this has gone on since I was a teenager. I've tried just not discussing anyone I'm dating, but then it turns into how I don't ever talk to her about anything, and that I never want to hear what she has to say. I basically live in my room when I'm home because I just can't be around her. The point of this whole thing is that I just don't know what to do. I do love my mother very much, but we've had a strained relationship since I was a teenager. Setting boundaries doesn't work. Putting my foot down doesn't work. We've had discussion after discussion. I want to be able to live my life. I cannot live like this any longer. I'm not looking for judgment. I'm just looking for advice. It makes me sick to my stomach to even think about moving somewhere without her. I mean, she has nothing. How can I move on with my life without ruining hers? What should I do? Wow, this really sounds like a tricky situation, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like your mom has nowhere else to go. For context, the original poster is 40 years old and their mom is 70. She's got no income. She's got nothing besides what? Social Security and a few other things. Like, this really is a rock and a hard place situation, and it really is unfair to you completely. But I think you need to remember going into this, regardless of what you choose to do, that no matter how you try to phrase it or how you try to go about this, your mom is probably going to freak out on you the second you try to move out without her. I think that is just inevitable, and I think you need to understand that going into this. She clearly doesn't respect you, and she treats you like garbage and is clearly using you, so it's honestly unfortunate and it's really not fair. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So hopefully you can find some kind of solution. I don't know if there's some kind of like local service that can help you transition her into her like own home or something like that, but regardless, I honestly hope it works out in your favor, because the way your mom is treating you is honestly not fair. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she called my partner a gold digger? Because right now I am still upset, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I come from a well-off family, but my dad always taught me to work hard and have class. When I was 14 years old, I started working at my dad's company part-time to earn my allowance, and when I turned 16, I became a real part-time employee. My dad decided to retire when I was 29 years old and handed the business to me. Back in my second year of university, I met Kim. Kim is not his real name. We were in the same course and ended up in the same group for a group project near the beginning of the year. We had a similar sense of humor and clicked as friends very quickly. One day, he mentioned he loves to cook and told me that we should cook together because I love to cook as well. And that weekend we went to his place, bought some ingredients, and cooked together. This then became us going shopping for ingredients after class on Friday, and I would stay the night at his place and we would cook on the weekend, and this became our weekly routine. Now, back then, I just told others that we were just friends, but in hindsight, this is definitely when I started to fall for him. I finally asked him out a few months later, and he said yes. We lived in the same house with 2 other friends in our 3rd year, and I asked him to move in with me after we graduated. From the beginning, I told Kim that I would not care if he didn't work, but he insisted he wanted to contribute financially. But after about a year, I had to make him stop. Due to the difference in our incomes, he was working himself half to death and was getting ill trying to contribute enough. I sat him down and I told him that whatever money he made didn't matter, that if he wanted to work, I wanted him to be happy. So he cut back his hours, then moved to part-time, and then decided to quit and work on his own projects. But he insisted that I let him take on some of the housework. Now, with that bit out of the way, this is where some of the issues begin. My sister and her partner both work, and he makes significantly less than her. And in private to me, she's made it known to me that she resents being the breadwinner. She sees all her male colleagues spoil and treat their wives, and wishes her partner would do the same. Now, he does treat her, but just not to the same level due to the fact that he basically makes about half as much as they do. Now, recently, I was talking to her about what I was going to get Kim for his birthday next month. She kept telling me that my ideas were too much and that I should get something cheaper since he doesn't contribute. Now, when she said that, I got a bit annoyed because I told her about Kim's insecurities of not making or being enough, and I told her he contributes more than enough. But then she said something that honestly blew my mind. She called him a glorified gold digger. And when she said that, I yelled at her. I told her to shut up and to not talk about Kim in that way. After calming down, I do feel bad. I know how she feels about her own financial position, but I don't think it's fair that she takes it out on me or Kim, even if Kim wasn't physically there. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister sounds like she's really projecting her frustrations and insecurities on you, and it almost sounds like she's trying to demonize Kim in some kind of way. Like, for starters, your situation is none of her business, and she has no say in how you handle your house. So for her to be like, oh, he's just a gold digger, he's just getting money from you, or to even imply that Kim is mooching off of you in some kind of way, that is incredibly insulting, and I wouldn't put up with that for a second. It's downright disturbing for her to make that kind of assumption when you know for a fact that she's talking about her own relationship. She basically wishes she could be in Kim's situation because it sounds like she doesn't want to work. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your sister is absolutely out of line, and what she's saying is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling a new friend not to come to brunch unless she could try to keep the conversations light? Because every time I've talked to her, she has always dumped her emotional baggage at my doorstep, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Let me start off by saying that I've had an awful week. I won't go into every unnecessary detail, but suffice to say the collision of various medical, work, and relationship stressors all at once have definitely pushed me to my last nerve. I banged my wrist on a doorknob yesterday, and I sunk to the floor and cried on the spot for half an hour. And this is because I simply couldn't take one more thing right now. I had brunch planned for today with a pretty new acquaintance. It was actually scheduled weeks ago, so I didn't anticipate what kind of shape I was gonna be in for today. We've hung out a handful of times and we have a lot in common, but she has a bit of an oversharing problem. My life sucks in the short term because right now I'm like a lightning rod for 2 years worth of garbage that's all going wrong all at once. Her life sucks for more long term because of family and mental health related reasons, which she has started going into ever increasing levels of morose detail. And I've got to be honest, it is way too much for how little we actually know each other. I am really not in a place to become close friends with someone who chronically does not have a modicum of their stuff together. But because of my current lightning rod situation, I have not been able to make a clean break. So I figured I would just get through today and that I would tell her I need to take a step back when I had a crumb of dopamine to spare for that uncomfortable conversation. So at like 6 in the morning, she texted me stuff like, "You are literally the only person I can trust," and also saying that her life is falling apart because she has a week to find her own place. And I'm thinking, okay, that's relatable, but also, what are you talking about? I am not your Facebook wall circa 2011, and I'm just thinking ahead to the hour-long hardcore trauma dump session that I am literally about to endure. So I text her back and say, hey, I'm really sorry for everything that you're going through right now, but I am really in no position to be anyone's emotional support right now. So if you don't think we can have a brunch today without you bringing up intense stuff, I would rather cancel. She responded back by saying, wow, okay, followed up several hours later with a bombardment of tweets tweets about how the world doesn't revolve around me, and how she's so sorry that the stuff she's going through in her life right now simply didn't wait until it was convenient for me, while also saying that it sucks to be vulnerable and in need of a listening ear and be told essentially to shut up. She also said that I care more about enjoying my brunch than I do about being an empathetic person. Now, I don't know if my exhaustion and stress made me act like an awful person, or if it made me justified to want to have a meal where I could actually relax for an hour. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? In my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think the fact that you were open and honest with this friend was really a good step in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the way you may have said this to this friend was a little bit aggressive, and it could have been like reworded in some kind of way, but I think her reaction is completely over the top. She was definitely looking to dump her emotional baggage on you, and that after a long time, especially with a new friend, is like really weird. Like, I'm all about being a listening ear for just about anybody, and I'm more than willing to help out if I can. But when every single conversation goes in this direction, honestly, that is incredibly exhausting, and I just don't think I would want to deal with that in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think the other girl in this situation has a really weird attitude, and I do not think that you were in the wrong for setting up expectations for the brunch you were going to share. Am I the jerk for not caring about my parents or even wanting to get to know them? Because at this point, I have my own life, and I'm kind of sick of their guilt tripping all of the time. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and I was the last child in my family. I'm the youngest of 5, and I'm the only one without severe health or mental issues, so I fell through the cracks. I spent almost all my time alone in my room reading or playing video games, and I generally didn't mind this. And I also want to make it clear here that I don't resent my parents or siblings. They didn't parentify me or make me my sibling's caretaker. My things were never taken for my siblings' benefit. I was just invisible because I didn't need them the way the other 4 did. When I was 9 or 10 years old, I made friends with 2 girls who were also in similar situations as mine, and we were and still are currently our own little found family. I went to college and graduated with the 2 of them. I moved to a new state just with the 2 of them. My family was busy, and that was fine. I didn't mind because that's just how life is when you have 4 sick siblings. Fast forward to November 2023, and my mom calls me 3 days before Thanksgiving, which is super unusual because we just don't talk anymore. The last time we spoke on the phone was when she was telling me the time and place of my sister's funeral. We text small talk occasionally, and our relationship is incredibly surface level, and honestly, that's an improvement from my high school years when we had no relationship. Mom asked me what time to expect me for Thanksgiving, and I had no idea they were planning Thanksgiving this year. She never mentioned it before this. Now, I already had plans, and also if she wanted me to come for Thanksgiving, I would have needed to book a plane ticket months ago. So giving me 3 days notice is not okay by me. She didn't remember that I live 2 states away now, but was upset that I would leave her alone on Thanksgiving, which felt very guilt-trippy to me because she has dad. When I refused to come after a couple of attempts, she eventually hung up on me. After about 30 minutes of scrolling back to check our messages and making sure and confirming that I didn't miss something, I sent her a text to let her know that I had a skiing trip booked for Christmas this year, but I would love to catch up with her and dad after the new year. Shortly after, I received a text message from dad telling me that if I didn't come home for Christmas, he would stop paying for my college. I then reminded him that I graduated 3 years ago, and that if he was still paying for someone's school, he should look into that because he was getting scammed. To be honest, I was pretty upset at this point about the guilt trip, as well as the veiled threats, so I just put my phone on mute and I ignored it. Now, my mom did call a couple more times, but eventually stopped. She did not text me on Thanksgiving or Christmas, and did not respond to me texting her. It's now February, and I haven't spoken to my parents since, and my 2 best friends are telling me that I'm kind of a jerk, and that they would be super happy if their parents tried to reach out to them. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk, but it really seems like your family is completely out of touch with your life. Like, I can understand them wanting to like stay in contact with you, but it seems like they're going about this the wrong way, and it really just seems like a toxic way of like dragging you back into the family, and that in my opinion just doesn't settle well with me, and that kind of feels weird. And the fact that your dad would give you an ultimatum about college and be like, well, if you're not going to come along for Christmas, I'm not going to pay for your college. Like, seriously, buddy, that is not the way to get anybody to do anything for you. It is completely irrational for the original poster to drop everything that he's doing just to come home and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with the 2 of you. And I'm sure they probably would have been willing if you like planned this in advance, but it's the fact that they're calling so close to the holiday itself that it honestly feels very manipulative and very inappropriate. And I don't blame you for being upset about this in the slightest. My mom wants to gain custody me over my child, all because I came out as transgender, claiming that because I plan on medically transitioning, I could never be a good parent to my daughter. And now I am just so furious over the things she said to me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this is a somewhat long story, but to shorten it up, I've been questioning for about 6 to 7 years now. I told my mother when I started questioning my gender identity, which was when I was about 16 years old. I got the whole, oh, it's just a phase speech, and then I went about my life. But for the next 6 years, I continued questioning. Now, I am a mother of a 3-year-old and nearly 23 years old. I finally figured it out and decided that I want to be male. For the past 2 months, I've been carefully planning out how I'm going to make this as smooth of a transition as possible when I eventually decide to medically transition. I plan to get therapy for myself and my daughter when she's old enough to help her understand, as well as have a talk with her, since this will affect her just as much, if not more, than it will affect me. And I completely understand that. I plan on doing weekly therapy for a year, if not 2, before doing the transition. Now, I decided though that I shouldn't have to tell my mother, in hopes that I would even get a smidge of support, even if it was as much as her saying, I love you no matter what. But no, I don't get that. Instead, she says to me, if you're going through with it, sign your rights of your child over to me. And I immediately tell her no. She will not be getting my child after all the nightmares she put me through. She then began to give me this whole woe is me speech. She tells me, I choose not to date because I put you guys first. As if putting what has been causing me constant mental stress first isn't also me putting my daughter first. Now, of course I'm going to put my daughter first, but my end goal is to become my best self to improve my mental health. It's something that's been causing me to be depressed and very stressed out because I feel like I'm keeping up appearances instead of being myself. I tell her this and she says, you're not a man, you're not transgender. This has nothing to do with mental health. She tells me to wait till my daughter turns 18, which, knowing how I was when I became an adult and tried to go off on my own, will only cause my daughter more stress. I want to work through this before she turns into an adult. That way it's a normal thing for her before she becomes an adult. Overall, I feel majorly disrespected, and I ended up actually crying over this because I've been overly stressed out due to financial reasons as of late. I honestly just really need to get this off my chest before I end up having my 3rd panic attack this month due to stress. My brain overall just feels so scrambled, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your mom sounds absolutely awful for the things that she's saying to you. The fact that she wants to take away your kids all because you're coming out as transgender and that you want to try and transition in your life is absolutely insane to me. Like, trust me, if I was in your shoes, that would be the first and last time she would ever talk to me like that about my kid. Because what she said is completely inappropriate. That is such a disgusting way to treat somebody, especially when they're being vulnerable and talking about something that is really delicate. And this situation is just that. It's very delicate and very sensitive. I don't think there's any reason why you can't transition and still raise your kid right. Like, I don't think for a second that's gonna stop you from being a good parent, and based on the way you've described your mom, I think you're guaranteed to be a much better parent than anything your mom could give you. And just imagine if you did sign over your kid over to your mom. I can imagine she would only perpetuate the same stuff that she did to you when you were growing up. Her entire argument and anything she has to say is so ridiculous because there's plenty of people who are transgender who are able to raise their kids just fine, and there's literally no issue. So truly, I wish you the best of luck in all of this because the way your mom is treating you right now is completely unacceptable, and I don't blame you for being distant from her in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A group of customers take the merchant receipt with them after I serve them on a check of $160. But after spending the day worried that I wasn't going to get a tip for that service, my manager came in clutch and helped me figure out exactly what I needed to do. Here's what happened. So I work at a restaurant that's inside of a casino and a hotel. This past week has been rough and very frustrating for everybody. Lots of needy guests that run you ragged for low tips, rushes near the end of my shift before second shift arrives, as well as being stuck an hour plus after my scheduled timeout to do side work. The day before this incident took place, I worked a 12-hour shift to help cover somebody calling off. Then I was back at work at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day when this took place. My first table was initially going to be a 6-top, which is great because we put 20% auto gratuity on them, but only 5 of them showed up, so I didn't get auto gratuity. Service went very well, and the table was full of friendly people. I had a feeling this table would be a good start to my day and hopefully turn around this frustrating week. They had run up a $160 check, which is high for breakfast, so I was excited. The grandfather of the group asked for the check, I run his card, and I drop the check off. I wish them well and I sent them on their way. A few minutes later, I see them walk out of the restaurant, but I'm mid-delivering drinks and I just got sat. Within about 3 minutes, I'm able to go to the table and pick up the signed receipt, but it is nowhere to be found. The check presenter is sitting there with a customer copy and there is no cash on the table. Being 99% sure the grandfather accidentally took the signed copy, I immediately full-on sprint out of the restaurant and book it to the elevator downstairs. But I couldn't find them in the lobby or down the hall right away, so I had to go back. At this point, tears are welling up and I'm doing my best to hold it together until I get to the back of house. When I finally get in the back, all of the BS from this week hit me and that receipt was my final straw. I was very visibly upset and my amazing coworkers came to help me right away. The other server gave me a hug and checked on my tables. I went to the bathroom to splash some water on my face and gather myself. I was better after about 5 minutes, but still very upset that I lost out on probably $30 because of something so stupid and that my day had such a sour start again. I continued about my day, although frustrated and somewhat frazzled. A few hours later, near the end of the chaos, one of the food and beverage managers is making rounds on the venues and stops in to check on mine. I tell him what happened and he asked to see the check. I still had the check presenter saved sitting near the point of sale, exactly how it was on the table. He moves the check side to side in the light and saw the pen impressions of the tip and signature. He told me it's good enough for me to get the tip and that they left me $40. And when he did that, I was so happy. I literally started crying tears of joy. I was very thankful for my manager and my coworkers, because without them, I honestly would not have been able to make it through that day. Wow, that's seriously a crazy situation. First of all, anybody who thinks the server in this story is overreacting over what, $40 has clearly never worked as a server for a living. Like, those tips make or break what your paycheck's gonna be. At least that's relevant in the United States. So when the customer doesn't tip the server, that is honestly devastating. Like, that really would ruin my day because it would set me back a lot of money. And personally, I feel like servers need to make a lot more base money as it is, and they should not solely rely on tips in the slightest, but that's just my opinion. But overall, I'm glad the original poster was able to get some kind of tip out of this mistake, because if you seriously missed out on the tip they were trying to give you, that really would have been unfair and absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend that I don't like waking up early to drive her to work? Because right now she seems very upset with me, and right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So every Sunday I wake up at around 5 o'clock in the morning so that I can drive my girlfriend to work. This most recent Sunday I was being super slow about it and I stayed in bed until 6 in the morning, meaning I couldn't cook breakfast in time and that she ended up cooking. After waking up an hour late, I was rushing through my usual morning routine and didn't give her the usual amount of attention that I do, and I told her I was rushing because I didn't want her to be late for work. She didn't like that I was rushing and only giving me quick kisses instead of long ones, and said that I looked super sleepy and that it looked like I didn't want to take her to work this morning. I responded by telling her that I hate waking up early and that I'm very far from a morning person, but I still do it because I liked having her there and spending time with her. Well, after that, she said that she would rather take an Uber to work that Sunday and go home on Saturday nights instead of spending the night because I was acting like I was being forced to take her. I still insisted I take her, and we ended up going, but she didn't speak to me that entire car ride. She's also been very distant since then, not really responding to text messages, and if she does, it'll be a short response with a period at the end of it, which I think means that she's mad at me. So was me telling her that I hate waking up early the wrong move, even though I told her it's okay because I love spending time with her? I just really don't get why she's so mad. Should I just let her spend the money on an Uber, which is like $30 to $50 instead of me driving her? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk here, because at the end of the day, you still show up every morning to drive her. Just because you don't like doing it doesn't mean you don't want to do it. And for her to be like, wow, you're not enthusiastic about waking up at 5 in the morning, I'm just gonna get an Uber. That, in my opinion, is really weird and like a complete overreaction. Because in my opinion, when you love somebody, you still want to do things for them even if you don't enjoy it. Like, I think that's completely normal and there's nothing wrong with that. And also, I don't know about you, but I'm personally not a morning person. So like, I can completely understand this guy where he's like, I don't really want to wake up early, but I would love to do it because I want to spend time with you. Like, the trade-off of spending time with the person you love far outweighs the cost of having to wake up incredibly early. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this is just a misunderstanding in some kind of way. And for the sake of both both of you, I hope this all gets worked out in the end. I caught my girlfriend cheating on me after my friend got a picture of her dancing up against another guy, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start off, I want to say that I dislike talking about myself, but I guess I have to get some context. I met Anna in college. Anna is not her real name. Before that, I served 5 years as a combat engineer for the Marines, and let me just say I did a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of stuff done to me, and that's pretty much all I want to expand on that. I got out and immediately enrolled in my local college. I was still definitely in the transition period between military and civilian life, and all of its ups and downs. Missing my boys, frustration at how regular people acted, all that stuff every veteran goes through. I was lucky and found a group that adopted me basically. Anna was one of them and we hit it off. Eventually we both got the courage to go out, and long story short, we started dating. We dated for 7 months, and I thought that everything was great. We went on dates, I got her gifts, and I made sure to meet her outside for class every day so I could walk her home. Well, 3 weeks ago, an old friend from the military was getting out and was driving across the country back to his home, and he would be passing through our city, so I offered for him to stay with me. We decided to go out like the old times, wandering red light districts on Liberty during deployment. And just like then, he got so drunk he wandered off and I lost him. Eventually we found each other and got back, and the next morning my friend said he had something he needed to show me. He said he didn't remember that night, but he had pictures on his phone. Now it was blurry because he was very drunk, and the club lights were also kind of distorting the picture, but it was a picture of Anna grinding on another guy. I was absolutely sure of it. It was taken from a club down the road from me, from the bar that I originally lost my friend at. Now, I was never one to leap without looking, so I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. We're in the capital city of our state. How many women who look like her were in the city anyways? I went to class, and afterwards I tracked down Anna's best friend. They always go out together, so if she was at the club, then the best friend would 100% be there as well. So I found her and I asked her if they went out last night. She denied it, so I said it was weird because my friend saw Anna. And then right there, the friend started stammering and saying he was mistaken. And while he was drunk enough, I mean, he very well could have been, her reaction was just so unbelievable, it sealed the deal for me. I just said to her, "Oh, okay, sure." And I walked away and continued my day as normal. Now, I doubt it's very healthy, but I can dissociate on command, and I just continue on from there. It's how I got through some of the worst times in the military, so I think I just fell back on that. You never rise to the occasion, you fall on your training. I didn't wait for Anna after class, and that was the first time since we started dating. When I got back to my house, I don't really know why, but I put on my old boots and I went running. I ran until the sun went down, and I realized I had left my phone on my bed. I get back to a million text messages and some missed calls from Anna. Her text strain was textbook stages of grief. She tried telling me it wasn't her, then berating me for not talking to her, which turns into her begging that I respond. Then her text messages started getting bad, where she admitted it was her, but nothing happened. But then she went down the list of her only dancing with this guy, to then only kissing him once, to then saying it was a one-time thing and that it meant nothing. It had to be hundreds of words of her just melting down that I wouldn't talk to her. And even if I did have my phone on me, I don't know if I would have done that in the first place. I had nothing to say to her, and the text barrage just ended up with her repeating that she was sorry, but I just texted back that it's over, and then I blocked her. And once again, I fell back on my training, which basically means I just wall myself off. I'm fully aware that none of this is healthy, but stuff happens. I just continued on and ignored the friend group because the way I see it is that they're her friends before they were mine. I won't ask them to choose, so I'll just stay away, which really sucked because they were my only friends at this school. This continued for a while until yesterday, where I was cornered by the group, and they started telling me how Anna had a mental breakdown and is in a really bad place. She won't leave her room and spends all her time looking at pictures of us, saying that she loved me and the other guy meant nothing. I just stared at them blankly, and then her best friend started demanding that I go see her and that I apologize for what I'm putting her through. She said to me, "Don't you even know the nightmare she's going through right now because of you?" Let me tell you something. The amount of strength it took for me not to break my bearing and start in on all of them was astronomical. And my God, I thought they were my friends. This little cornering just shred any last care I could possibly give. So I just responded by saying, "I know, and I just don't care." And then I started walking away. One of my ex-friends tried to stop me, but stood down when I pushed him aside. I know Anna has a history of mental instability. She's had a few incidents in high school, but her doctor finally found the right cocktail to put her on, and she was a lot lot better. And I meant what I said when I stated that I really don't care if Anna won't leave her room. If she does something stupid, then I might care. As much as she hurt me, she is still a human, and I don't want that for anyone. But I do hope my ex-friends help her out. She needs support, and not some awful job at intimidating me just to forgive her. So I guess the advice I'm asking for is, do I really make sure that she's okay? Should I at least make sure that she's not going to do anything stupid, if you know what I mean? We won't ever have what we did again, but I don't want her doing anything dumb, and I'm willing to sacrifice my emotions for that. What should I do? Okay, first of all, the best friend of your ex-girlfriend is completely out of line, and she is insane. Is she seriously trying to imply that you did something to her? Because last I checked, this lady cheated on you, not the other way around. You've been loyal to her and you really did love her, and she went behind your back to go and dance with some other guy and start getting all lovey-dovey with him without you knowing about it. Like, that part alone completely disengages any argument she has about anything you've done to her. So on that end, I'm kind of glad that you stayed away from these friends, because they clearly were not your friends. They were only friends with Anna, and that's all they will ever be. Now, when it comes to checking in on her and making sure she doesn't do anything stupid, I don't think that's a terrible idea, but I do think you need to know that she's gonna want to try to get back with you. And it sounds like you don't want anything to do with her, and trust me, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. So I do think you could be the bigger man and check in on her, just for the sake of saying that you did check in on her. Because you are not obligated to have any kind of relationship with this woman, especially after she betrayed your trust. Because at the end of the day, you don't owe her anything. She's dealing with the consequences of her own actions. And that is literally something that she's gonna have to live with for the rest of her life. Am I the jerk for canceling our apartment signing after I found out that my boyfriend bought an expensive car? Because right now he is very upset at my decision. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My boyfriend and I have been living together for the past 2 years. We've been living with roommates and have been looking for a place to move into for a while now. It is expensive, and I have a dog, so it's been difficult to find a landlord that would be okay with me having said dog. My friend has been moving out, and she has a dog too, and is willing to sublet for us. The landlord said they are okay with signing us if we want to stay after the 8-month sublet. It's a fairly good price near work, so I'm happy with it. We worked through the credit check and we are about to sign it, but recently I discovered that my boyfriend bought another car. He already has his daily driver, but then he wants a weekend car, which I personally find ridiculous. I mean, why would anybody need 2 cars? He has a Honda Accord that is fine, and he has never complained about problems with it, but he recently said he bought another car. He isn't the best with money. He really likes to spend till the last dollar and doesn't have any savings. I've had to bail him out twice on rent. We both pay around $1,100 plus utilities, and he makes around $70,000 a year. So he should have savings, but he doesn't. He paid me back, but it was months later than we agreed on. So I wasn't really happy that he did that, but I didn't realize he bought such an expensive car. He didn't show it to me until Saturday when we picked up a Corvette. Now, I don't know what model it is, but I asked him how much the car was, and he said it wasn't my business. And I was just so mad that he bought a car that was clearly expensive. He admitted later, all because I refused to let it go, that it was $42,000 and that he had traded in the Honda. Even then, his payments are almost $800 a month. I was so mad he did that, especially because he asked me to cover part of his share of the apartment security deposit literally a week before he bought the car. I called my friend and apologized and told her I can't sign the lease, and she said she was okay with it. I had not paid the deposit yet, thankfully, and my roommate is okay with me staying, so I'm good. But my boyfriend's lease is ending, and the landlord wants him out, so he is mad at me canceling us moving in together because now he still needs to move, and will probably be paying more than if we move in together. He yelled at me for butting in on his business, saying it's not my business what he buys. I think that's fair, but he also doesn't have any money, and he bought an expensive car, so if anything goes wrong, I have to pay his share of the rent. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk in the slightest. For starters, it really sounds like your boyfriend is using you entirely. Like, he keeps asking for money, he keeps wanting you to pay for stuff, and he himself has literally no savings to his name. Like, this guy just does not sound responsible in the slightest. And he's going about all of this in the wrong way. He literally already has a car. There was no reason to trade it in just to get a brand new Corvette. And you know what? I feel like this is just going to perpetuate this same cycle he's put you in. He's going to have this $800 a month car payment, and you're going to have to pick up the rent and the utilities, all because he can't afford it. And honestly, that is not not fair for you in the slightest. Like, you've planned ahead and you've made sure that you have money set aside for certain things, and you have some kind of safety net when it comes to like your money. So in my opinion, I think your boyfriend would have just done the same thing the second you move in. Like, his spending habits are not going to change just because you guys live together, by the way. If anything, I'm really convinced that it might get worse, and then you really would be stuck between a rock and a hard place. So no, of course you are not the jerk. I think what your boyfriend did is absolutely unacceptable. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would be very upset as well. Thank you so much for watching. We love and appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed to Am I the Jerk already, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell to turn on notifications. It's the best way to catch new videos, man, and you definitely don't want to miss videos, do ya? While you're at it, also check out Am I the Genius? You'll find them linked down below in the description. They are a fantastic channel and we love them so much, and we're sure you're gonna like them as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.